Listen, I just gotta make sure, you know, like the timing of that message and then that little XD face that I made was really bad timing. I'm just trying to make people aware. Hello. Hello. I'll be all. I made a thing just for this, you lucky people. This is gonna be an interesting read, so there is that. The last time that we did a live reading was for the book. I found puppets living in my apartment walls. That book gave me the chills and the shivers. Hi! Okay, I know that you looked up them more specifically to ask if they're hot or cold-blooded. But, apart from all the stuff that's been going on today, I hope everyone's looking after themselves. Like, proper. Have you all got drinks? If you are going to read, you know, do that. But, the book is actually on Kindle Unlimited. Ven was originally the one who sent it to me, I don't know, like a month or so ago. The cover itself is absolutely hilarious. Unfortunately, I got my lights on, so you can't see it. The amount of I love how bad and how funny the Photoshop is just for the cover. I mean, no, I didn't, but you do you. I mean, I'm just gonna assume. Just let me live my fantasy, okay? Let me live my fantasy. So, Judith Sonnet. We read a book by them known as Magic. That was a extreme horror. I read it for extreme horror theme that I did. It was an experience. It went bonkers. But they do describe certain things very, very well. You sent me Splatter-Saurus specifically, and then I decided to look into more of like dinosaur splatterpunk books, and I got a few. You sent me this like 2 months ago, but I'm excited to read this. It's only 88 pages, so it'll probably take us about 2 hours, 3 hours, 3 tops, because reading just out loud does take a little bit longer. But I'm excited to do this, and we'll start in a second. It's all good. It's all good. It's okay that you forgot. It's allowed. Age catches up then to everyone. I'm sure my time will come soon. I'm still recovering from Wishbone scene. Oh, did they write the Wishbone scene? Oh, this is going to be terrible then. How bad can it be with dinosaurs? Me, I don't have a WhatsApp message. Plus I can't because... Oh, okay. 1 second. My phone is... Why would you do this to me? Okay. Sorry in advance for this one.
Hey boy, are you a side quest? Because I want to do you for the experience.
Ah! Wait, it got really hot in here. I only have a hoodie on. I didn't. I hate you so much. That was really good. God damn. Is it hot in here? Oh, you make my chest hurt out of I don't know what. But let's just let's start reading, okay? So this actually comes with a warning. So we're gonna read the warning first. Better than the last one. What was the last one? So, warning, this is extreme splatterpunk horror. If you do not like extreme splatterpunk horror, then you will not enjoy this book. It is intended only for mature readers. It's the fact that it's got extreme horror in there, and I don't know, because normally when people have extreme horror in there, it's like, oh, can't say that out loud. And then it's got a list of all the other books they've done. One of the So one of the books, I'm just looking at the books that they've done as well. We have obviously Clown Hunt, which you've read, Then we've got Chainsaw Hooker, Low Blasphemy, Magic obviously I've read, Kill Your Pumpkins, Gobbler, Fuck Your Thanksgiving. Earth versus the Nudist Camp Freaks. Oh my god, what the fuck? Zombie Vomit Shit Show. Santa Sploitation. Repugnant. Sardines in the Dark. I just... I've heard of some of these. Gobbler Shockling. I've not. But this is Splatter-Saurus, a bloody creature feature by Judith Sonnet. Welcome back, Dan. That warning's the edgiest thing I've heard all evening. Hey, Eno, how you doing? We do not have fart on the YouTube. Santa Book is your Xmas reads list. Is it? Oh no. I don't know how I feel about that. Are we all ready for this live reading? Because I don't know what to expect. So, who knows what you expect? Right. Let's do this. It's only 88 pages, it won't take long. Right, chapter 1, and we're already 4% of the way through the book. We don't talk about the Charlie one. Luke paddled towards the center of the pond. The kayak bobbed happily through the murky waters. Luke was young, and his imagination was fertile. He abstracted that there was something lurking beneath the muddy liquids. He had to be careful, because if he tipped the kayak over, then it would get him. But what did it look like? He tried to recall some of the creatures that haunted the television on Friday nights. Some were fashioned with stop-motion puppetry, while others were made of animatronic parts. All of them looked like goofy toys, but that was part of the appeal. Luke was addicted to watching The Monster Hour. This was a local program hosted by Ghoulerson. The character of a horror host often told puns to a reptilian puppet before showing off black and white monster flicks from the 50s. Last week, Luke had watched The Brain That Wouldn't Die in terrified wonder. He ignored his sister's diverse comments towards the movie, and he pretended not to hear his grandfather snoring through it. To Luke, it didn't matter how archaic or old-fashioned the flicks were. If they were on the Monster Hour, then that made them a big deal. Luke decided that he wanted to picture the cephalopod from the monster that challenged the world under his kayak. The strange creature was rearing its flattened head up from the murky depths, setting his awful eyes on the underside of the boat. Soon, it would rise up, and then splash! Luke beat the surface of the pond with his paddle. The water sprayed in chunky blurts around the paddle's blade, then peppered Luke's face and scalp. He smiled. The monster was defeated, and he was safe to continue paddling. Luke was skinny blonde and freckled. He wore swim trunks and a tight life preserver. He wished he could go out without it, but his grandpa always warned him, "Crater Pond is deeper than you think, boy." The pond was very aptly and literally named. The water filled in a wide depression on his grandfather's property. There were legends that a meteor had fallen there, which was why the farm was dubbed Meteorite Acres. His grandfather played up the name, but they sold Christmas trees and rented cabins rather than fallen chunks of space dirt. Still, Luke liked to pretend that there was a glowing orb of cosmic debris down in the depths of the pond. It was a good place for fishing, paddling, and playing. But it wasn't exactly the perfect spot for swimming. The bottom of the pond was so muddy and gunky, it stained the water a nasty brown. Luke joked that it looked like diarrhea. His sister said it looked like the last sips of some strong tea. His grandpa said it just looks like crud. Luke and Irene lived with their grandfather, a crotchety coot named Bill. Their parents had died in a car accident when Irene was 13 and Luke was 9. Now Luke was 11, and Irene had just turned 15. In their first years on the farm, she'd been attentive, compassionate, and clingy. She was just a normal big sister now that time had soothed her emotional wounds. Irene pushed Luke around, made fun of everything he liked, and rolled her eyes whenever he tried to make conversation. The closeness they'd relied on to survive had a shelf life, apparently. Well, that's okay, Luke thought, as she ignored his request to take the kayaks out in the pond. I'll just go on by my own dang self. Paddling around the circular pond, Luke felt at ease. He listened to bullfrogs burp, rustling reeds, and the occasional splash of a fish grabbing for gnats. He swatted at mosquitoes, kept his eye peeled for snakes, and enjoyed his imaginative train of thought. One second he was fighting off monolithic monsters, the next he was paddling through the dense Amazonian jungles. There was a patch of overgrowth which hung along the side of the pond, and he whisked through it swiftly. He imagined he was surrounded by vines, chittering monkeys, and snorting crocodiles. Or was it alligators that lived in the Amazon? Or both? I'll need to ask Grandpa. He knows everything. Luke's paddle struck the edge of a submerged tree trunk. It rang through the metallic shaft of the paddle and shocked his arms. Wincing, he pulled the paddle back, set its edge against the trunk, and pushed away from it. The water gulped lazily around the sides of his ship. That's the next one. He was now a castaway, riding the... Oh my god, these freaking words that people just kind of splash together. Riding the tumultuous waves of the ocean. He's been lucky enough to grab a lifeboat before the ship sank. As far as he knew, he was the only survivor. Luke rocked back and forth on his kayak, imagining himself in the midst of a hurricane. Did a little lifeboat survive a tropical storm? Better ask Grandpa about that too. He saw something sink in the center of the pond. It was rigid, scaly, and it bore a cat-like eye. Bright yellow with a slit cut through its middle. The thing was there and then gone in a heartbeat. All it left behind were ripples and a swirl of muddy water. Luke froze. The kayak drifted listlessly. He flexed his eyes on the spot where the thing had been. His mouth hung open and his eyes refused to blink. Did he really see that? Or had his imagination run away from him? Luke swallowed a lump and looked around the pond. He hadn't realised until now, but the bullfrogs had stopped burbling. Aside from the blinking of water from his paddle, there was an absence of sound at Crater Pond. He looked over his shoulder. The house was up on a hill. It seemed just as silent as the fish pond was. He wished his grandpa would step out on the porch, or that his sister would wave to him from the window. Luke didn't want to feel all alone in the world, especially after he'd spooked himself so badly. Time to call it a day, he thought. Just paddle to shore and go back to the house. Take a bath, eat some dinner, and catch the monster with Ghoulison before a jacuzzi's worth of bubbles surrounded him, as if the pond had been set to boil. Luke whimpered like a frightened puppy. He held the paddle to his chest and glanced from one end of his boat to the other. The bubbles were thick, filmy, and popped with a sizzling hiss. Whatever was causing them, it was big, and it was filled with hot anger. Luke sank his paddle into the water, thinking to scoot away. Something grabbed the paddle and pulled it from his hands. Luke yelped and gripped the sides of his boat in an effort to keep it from capsizing. The kayak tilted and bobbed. The paddle shot up to the surface. Its end was frayed. Chewed. It stuck up in the air, then smacked down into the water. Like a detached log, it floated a yard away from Luke's kayak. He reached out for it. Maybe he couldn't steer his boat away from where it was that was beneath him, but if he needed a weapon, the paddle was it. A set of slender jaws burst up from the water and clamped onto Luke's outstretched arm. He gasped as the teeth tore through his flesh, splintered his bones, and shredded his musculature network like pasta. In a moment, the mouth was gone, and so was Luke's arm. He snapped back, clutching at the seeping stump that had once been a functional elbow. It ended in a jagged scrap of mutilated flesh, and a jagged protrusion of yellow bone. Clapping his palm against the wound caused ungodly pain to flare up through Luke's tiny body. He screamed louder than he'd ever screamed before. The sound encapsulated his horror, terror, and agony. Did someone abandon their pet gator in Crater Pond? No, that was bigger than that. Bigger, with a shorter snout, like an overlarge... It actually says overlarge lizard. Or, the word dinosaur hit him right as the creature butted its head underneath Luke's kayak. The child squealed as he was lurched out of his seat. He flipped through the air before landing in the water. He was submerged for a brief second, then the life jacket pulled him up to the surface, bobbing like a buoy. Luke sputtered, gulped, and gasped. Then his screams began anew when the creature sunk its teeth into his belly and began to gnash it. Luke paddled with his remaining arm, but the motion was futile. He was in the beast's jaws, and it wouldn't let go. Luke began to thrash like a ragdoll in a canine's jaws. He was pulled by the monstrous... It actually says this, by the way. This is why I'm getting confused. He was pulled by the monstrous, this way and that by the creature. His blonde head and singular arm both fell limp, and blood began to stream out from every possible orifice. His ears, his nostrils, and his open maw all became red fountain spouts. Then he pulled through his life jacket. He vanished from sight. Sorry, I'm just rereading what I just read because there's like some mistakes. leaving the orange floaty behind. It remained on the surface of the pond, surrounded by chunks of masticated flesh and oil slicks composed of blood and stomach bile. The overturned kayak ebbed towards the shore. Eventually, it found a place to rest. The pond fell still. Then the creature emerged. It lumbered out from the corner of Crater Pond and slithered into the high stalks of unmaintained grass that led away from Meteorite Acres. The child meat had sated its hunger, but only for the moment. It would need to feed again, sooner rather than later. And that's the first chapter. And what do we think of that for the first chapter? There was a few spelling and other mistakes going on, which is why I struggled a little bit. And yes, that was the word that it was supposed to be written, but it was spelt wrong, so I didn't know how to pronounce it. I knew what it was meant to be, and I couldn't do it. Probably not. But yes, he is dead. Whatever that kid was called, Luke. I think for a first chapter, that's alright. That child is very dead. Right then. Reminded me of a certain creepypasta. Which creepypasta is it? I've not read The Pocket. Tell us about The Pocket. I'm also going to quickly change this because the hoodie's apparently too hot for me right now, so I'll be 1 second. The lake colour is the same as the UK rivers now. Yes it is. Fishing is fun. Give me 1 second, sorry. I apologise about that. There we go. Hang on, I'll link it in Discord. Thanks, I appreciate. I was going to say spelling mistakes. So a character dead in the first chapter kind of makes you think how many will die throughout. Oh, I think it's going to be total bloodshed. It'll be like everyone dies. That's how they seem to go with these sorts of things. You're hiding that jumper because of Ven's voice message. Yes. That's all it took. Now, the hoodie isn't too hot for you. You were too hot for the hoodie. Bow, chicka, bow, wow, waka, wow. Anyway. Let's just go on. We're on chapter 2. Oh no. Oh no. I just can't wait to get fucking drunk, Polly said before farting loudly. You said it. In the next stall, Mindy was trying her best to be dainty. It was a challenge. The gas station bathroom was slicked with grime. The walls of her cubicle seemed to be sweating. There wasn't even a dispenser for her tampon. Let's see how this is going to be. Dispenser for her tampon. She'd had to half-heartedly drop hers into the toilet. Putting in a new one, she closed her eyes and prayed that there weren't any Porky-style spy hole in the bathroom. She wouldn't have been surprised, considering that the two guys behind the counter looked like a product of inbreeding and smelled like crusty gym socks. Ew. She heard Polly wipe, flush, and stamp towards the sink. Mindy joined her. Even the sink looked like a gutter. The drain was caked with crystallized snot, and the mirror was foggy and smoke-stained. She washed her hands quickly, thankful she had hand sanitizer in the car. Just don't touch your face until your hands are actually clean. You don't want to come back from this weekend with pink eye or worse. Mindy and Polly were out on a weekend excursion with their boyfriends. They had left after their classes wrapped at Creston College. They planned to spend Friday and Saturday partying. Sunday, after they had washed away their hangovers, they'd drive back to campus just in time to catch some shut-eye, before classes began again at 6 in the morning. They were all Creston, why do I... Okay, so I'm going to say it how it's spelled. So it's like Missouri. That's how it's spelled. Don't judge me, I'm reading how everything's spelled. Locals, and they'd been groomed by the college at a young age. The fact that they used the word groomed in this. Okay. It promised a work for tuition program, which oftentimes locked up their weekends and free time. They were also forced to adhere to a strict morality code. No drinking was permitted on or off the campus. This was why the foursome had chosen to leave their cell phones behind, just so no one would drunkenly open Instagram and take a picture that could prove detrimental to their academic livelihood. Freshmen weren't even allowed to have cars on campus. Mindy and Polly were thankful that their boyfriends were both upperclassmen. They could borrow Lincoln's car. Polly was curvy, red-headed, and freckled. She was hoping to spend a few years in Creston to get her requirements out of the way before swapping over to a nursing program. While Creston College boasted that it could prepare its students for anything the world threw at them, its focuses were fairly singular and agricultural. There was a heavy emphasis on technical arts, religious studies, and above all, farming. Polly wasn't interested in any of that. She wanted to mend broken bones, sew up cuts, and pat people on the back before prescribing them pain meds. Lincoln, her boyfriend, was something of a handsome geek. Ooh. He was a stud with a square head, strong arms, and dusky hair. He also played tabletop role-playing games. Oh. Grew passionate over math. I love Mass Effect! Grew passionate over Mass Effect, collected comic books, and was even pinning an honest-to-God epic fantasy trilogy. When he had the time for it, of course. Creston College had drained a lot of his free time away from him with his extracurricular, that's what it's supposed to say, requirements. If any of them needed some time away from work, school, and stress, it was Lincoln. What the fuck, guys? He wanted to be a writer, but college was forced upon him by his parents, so he was trying for an English degree. Even though that department was severely lacking at Creston, the teachers were pedantic and wanted to link everything they read back to their own Christian worldviews. It frustrated Lincoln, who had to keep his atheism a secret. Mindy could relate. She wasn't a believer or a Republican, or even a farmer's daughter. She wanted to study business, which was something Creston discouraged young ladies from pursuing. Let's see where this is going. The college was trapped in a fundamentalist Stone Age, and she was anxious to peel away from it. And yet, she came from an impoverished background, and Creston was all her parents could afford. You didn't get a better deal than free education, even if it meant working at the on-campus restaurant, a restaurant which encourages employees to discriminate against diners who didn't fit the Creston lifestyle. Mindy was bisexual and had to hide it. Her identity was locked deep inside her chest. The only person who knew about it was Polly, and that was because they'd been friends since middle school. Even Mindy's boyfriend didn't know that sometimes his girlfriend liked to look at girls. Oh no, I can really see where this book is gonna go. She felt bad keeping it secret from Ian, but she didn't know if she could trust him yet. Although he liked to sneak away from Creston to smoke and drink, she didn't know where his politics aligned. Did he agree with the outspoken teachers who believed that any sort of queer identity was a signifier of spiritual corruption? Or did he believe that people should be allowed to feel how they naturally felt? If she told him, would he rat her out? She couldn't afford to be expelled. She needed a degree. Otherwise, she'd work at her mother's yarn and quilt shop until she inherited it. She wanted to believe that Ian was a good guy. He looked nice, at least. He was lean, tall, and his brown skin was freckled with dark freckles. His voice was firm. He wore his hair short, another Creston requirement that men couldn't have their hair stretched beyond their ears, and women couldn't cut their hair above them. He was every bit the gentleman, too. Won their first date. He'd open every door ahead of Mindy. Mindy looked at her reflection in the blurred gas station mirror. Her brown locks were pulled back into a ponytail, and her eyes were heavy. Her skin looked green with worry, and her throat clicked erratically. I don't know what that means, that her throat clicked. Oh. Wow. Nice. Okay. Boom. Let's just do that. They've actually been banned now and hidden, so there we go. We're just gonna, like, people want to just spam the channel for us very, very fast. That'll be good. Bloop. Oh my god, Velocipasta was the best movie I've ever seen in a long time. Anyway. Where were we? Thank you, then. She tried to tell herself that she was worried about the bathroom, that whatever diseases she might have caught, just by breathing the air in it. But that wasn't the truth. Mindy was worried because she was fairly certain that she was going to lose her virginity this week. Oh no. Yes, she wanted it, but that didn't ease her anxiety. Velocipasta is a movie, and it's the best thing we've ever seen. It's so good, it's so funny. And of course her period had sprang out early, just to mess with her. It might not bother him, or he'll nickname you Bloody Mary and you'll never hear the end of it. Stop, Ian isn't like that. Yeah? How do you know? You've only been dating him for a few months. It's been casual. He hasn't been serious until this weekend came up. Yeah, then he started giving you ride my cock eyes. Stop it, you stop it. She's literally fighting with herself, by the way, in this. This is disgusting. These books make me so nervous and cringy. So bad. Oh, yeah, you know, I'm lost too. Don't you worry about it. This, like I said, this is an experience. Her internal dialogue raged on while she stared at her reflection. You okay, hun? Polly asked. Yeah, Mindy returned. I think this bathroom is making me seasick. I'm so lost. Polly looped an arm around Mindy's and marched her towards the door. You and me both, she chittered. We're on chapter 3. We're nearly 20% of the way through the book. This is... Oh, for real? I just need to make people aware. If anything gets, like, 18 plus, not gore-wise, but otherwise, I'm just gonna skim that. Or rename some words as we go through it. This is gonna be a fast read. I know that much at least. Ugh. So, feel like the fanfic read. Oh, yeah, that was funny though. The fanfic was funny. Don't hate. Anyway. Chapter 3. While the girls were in the bathroom, Lincoln and Ian perused the shelves. The service station was sparsely stocked, but there was still some goodies to be found. Oh my god, these words are really bad. We are going to be reading one again, by the way, Jenny. Ian carried a pack of ice cakes under an arm while Lincoln lugged around a carton of beer. The back of their van was already crowded with bottles, but they hadn't been able to secure any Blue Moon, and that was Polly's favourite. So, when Lincoln spotted a carton, he picked it up quickly. "You got your ID right?" Ian asked. "I don't know if they'll check," Lincoln said, throwing a sneaky glance towards the counter. The two rednecks at the desk were walking stereotypes. The skinny one had a rebel flag hat, his mustache was flecked with barbecue sauce. The other one wore overalls and nothing else. His arms were hairy like a bear's. His belly was swollen and one of his eyes was lazy. Both men were chewing tobacco. They spat in unison into a cup they'd set on the counter. "Let's check out," Lincoln started towards the desk. "Wait!" Ian paused and pointed at a nearby shelf. "Condoms?" Lincoln asked. "Yeah." "Don't worry about it," Lincoln stated. "I bought condoms, and, unlike these, they won't break." Ian bit his lower lip before saying, "Have you and Polly, you know?" "Yeah, sure, all the time, when we can. We once even did it in a public park." "No shit." "No shit, no shinola," Lincoln drawled. "That was back in high school, though, before we actually started dating. Back then, we were just friends with benefits." "Oh," Ian nodded. He sometimes felt out of place among his pals. Lincoln, Polly, and Mindy had all grown up together. Most everyone at Creston was native to the community. He had come over from out of state, prompted by his parents who wanted him to be schooled with Christian values. Of course, when none of them knew was that Ian wasn't a proper Christian. He believed in God, yes. He even thought the Bible had a few good stories hidden amongst all the boring parts. But Ian wasn't all like the other boys at Preston. He was also bisexual. He didn't know how Mindy would react if he told her that sometimes her boyfriend liked to look at boys. Okay, so can we just pause for a second? So in chapter 2, it was about Mindy and Polly, and Mindy was like, "Yo, I'm bisexual. My boyfriend Ian doesn't know that I like to look at other girls." And then it's like, "Yo, Ian's also fucking bisexual. Mindy doesn't know he likes to look at boys." Oh, how old is Judith Sonnet who wrote this? It sounds a lot worse, but there is a lot of spelling mistakes and punctuation mistakes. There's a lot of mistakes. This book may be a mistake. It's just so we're on the same level. It's an experience. Plot twist, everyone is bi. Probably. I mean, it keeps talking up about these Christian values and the stereotypical American, unfortunately. Why is he hating on them so much? No, only 2 of them is, but we're gonna say now that everyone is at the end of the book. Knowing that she was a Creston local, he was halfway certain that she'd hold some prejudice is spelled wrong, against him for admitting such a thing. Worse still, she could rat him out to the college and he'd be expelled. Oh, expelled, no. But another part of him was sure she'd understand. Maybe she'd love him even more, knowing that he wasn't as straight or as... I don't even know how to pronounce this word. Whatever, as the rest of the guys on campus. Sometimes he thought the whole college was a relic from the 50s. They required boys to keep their hair short, reserved the right to expel students on moral grounds, and since they were a private institution, no one could stop them. And they even held a few mandatory classes on religious studies. Creston College wasn't a place for a coloured queer man like Ian. But at least he'd made one good friend with Lincoln. Unlike the rest of the boys, Lincoln was imaginative, bright, funny, creative, and handsome. Not that Ian thought of Lincoln as a potential lover, no, but a boy could dream. They approached the counter just as the girls were exiting the restroom. Oh, confidently, Lincoln pulled out a wad of cash and passed it to Ian. If they were going to buy beers, then they weren't going to leave a credit trail. As expected, the Hicks didn't ask to see any ID cards. Instead, they processed the order and passed back their change. Maybe we'll get through this unscathed. The skinny redneck sneered towards the door, just as the girls let it slam shut behind them. Them some nice spit tails you got there. Ian felt his blood freeze. He glanced towards Lincoln. The buffer boy's face was turning bright red. Y'all gonna party with them tonight? The skinny hit cooed. Because if you ain't, we'd be happy to fill the position. The rounder bumpkin chortled. Whew! Ain't seen girls that purty since we went to a big city strip club for your own cousin, Randy's bachelor party. Remember that, don't you, Angus? What the fuck is this? Sure do, Paul. Sure do. Prettiest girls I ever did see. Not a hair lip or a crooked tooth inside. Sheets! Wait, I wasn't prepared for this. Wait. I'm sorry. Oh no. Yeah, them gals you boys got with you remind me something fierce of them city strippers, all clean and fresh. Tell me, do their cats even stank? Hey, Lincoln barked, leaning over the counter. You better put some respect on those scrawny lips or you and I can take this outside. Ian grabbed Lincoln's arm. No, man, let's just go. Angus skinned his lips back, revealing teeth which looked as if they'd never been brushed. A hairy fungus was growing across the man's crumbling chompers. Oh. Yeah, better listen to your boyfriend, buddy. Angus said, giving Lincoln a steely-eyed glare. You don't want none of my trouble, see, I was just trying to be nice. Make you feel good about your ugly skank bitch C-word ass girlfriends. But now, you got me riled. This does not have a sequel, fuck the write-off then. Let's go! Ian tugged Lincoln towards the door, leaving the snack cakes and booze behind. Lincoln was fuming. Ian could see steam pouring out of his best friend's ears. Every word Angus and Paul had said was like a slap to the face. As nerdy as Lincoln was, he was a big guy and he didn't take shit from anyone. Unlike Lincoln, Ian had no interest in getting in a scrap. He wanted to avoid conflict as best as possible, even though these things Angus and Paul had said were some of the foulest words imaginable. They left the station. As they got back into their car where their girlfriends were waiting, Ian gazed out the back window and watched as Angus and Paul stepped out from the door. The country-fried freaks watched the car depart. The hillbillies looked pissed off, and Ian was thankful they didn't have any guns on them. Splatter-Saurus Rex, are you serious? No. No. You lie. You absolutely lie. Ugh. We're out in the middle of nowhere. Thinking this is gonna be terrible. I'd watch the sequel if we get the impersonation. I'll bring the impersonations. Don't you worry. We can bring the impersonations with us. It'll be a good time. We're out in the middle of nowhere. They could have shot us and got away with it. They could have killed me and Lincoln. Then they'd have a free reign to do whatever they wanted with Holly and Mindy. Cripes. What if they follow us to the cabin? No. How will they know we're out here? We didn't tell them where we're going or what we were doing. Ian was dismayed to see a sign posted on the road which read that Meteorite Acres was only a mile away. Shit, they probably live right next door to the place we rented. Fuck. What's wrong, boys? Polly asked, leaning over the center consoles, so she was between her boyfriend and Ian. Nothing, babe. Lincoln pressed his tongue against his cheek. Nothing. Those hillbilly shits were just trying to upset us, but we shrugged it off. Very mature of you. Hey, did I see you with Blue Moon? Yeah, but they asked for IDs and we left ours at home. Bummer. Polly fell back into her seat. Nice save, Link, Ian thought with a smirk. No need to upset the girls or ourselves. Yeah, they won't know where we're at. It's just going to be a fun weekend, you'll see. Nothing will go wrong. We're on chapter 4. What's everyone's thoughts so far? First of all, I need to find this sequel already. The hillbillies were like, Stewie! I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. Different author, but Judith wrote the forward. Oh no. I mean, this book isn't. I forgot what Judith was like with writing. And the fact that it said some slightly sexual stuff that I had to change some of the words for. It has a high rating. More. More. Ugh, that's bonkers. Hillbillies with no guns. See, this is a fan fiction. Not when they. I bet you they're gonna turn up in like a next chapter or two with guns. That's mental. That is mental. Are we ready for chapter 4? This is I think by the time we get to chapter 5 after this, we should be about halfway through the story. So it's gonna be fast paced. And if there's more hillbillies, we can absolutely do impersonations and butcher it, unfortunately, for people. Sent it. Thank you, Ben. You're so kind to me. Right. Oh, we've gone back in time, by the way. Luke boy, where you at? Grandpa Bill shouted. Irene sighed. It was just like her little brother to run off without telling anyone. She'd been concerned by the capsized kayak and the floating life preserver, but after spotting a gorge through the tall grass, they decided that Luke must have just abandoned one toy for another. He was probably crawling through the woods, playing Nam. Grandpa cupped his hand over his mouth and unleashed a call that raised the hairs on the back of the 15-year-old girl's neck. If Luke didn't hear that, then he must have gone deaf. Or he drowned. No, he didn't do that, definitely not. Come on, Luke, Irene cried. Your stupid monster show is about on. She stumbled through the grass, wincing as the blades stroked her legs. She imagined she'd have to pick ticks out from between her toes after all was said and done. Dang nabbit, Luke! You better not be spying on them cabins! Grandpa shouted. Them folks deserve their privacy. There were 3 cabins on Meteorite Acres. They were all spaced apart. As far as Irene knew, no one was occupying any of the buildings unless tonight's party had shown up early. All she had gleaned from her grandpa was that the cabin was being rented out by a group of college students, and that they had paid in cash. Bill had received the envelope of money in the mail just the other day. Irene sighed and pulled at a lock of auburn hair. None of her friends knew how to party. Living in the backwoods, her pals were all cousins who'd rather spend time hunting and fishing than getting into trouble. Irene wondered if she'd be welcome to a college party. She looked older than she was. The dinosaur leapt out from the grass and smashed into her. At first, her confused mind thought the beast was a bear, but bears weren't covered in flame-bright orange scales. They didn't carry reptilian musk or walk on their hind legs. Their arms weren't thin and didn't end in curved bird-like talons. Bears also didn't have tails, which stuck out behind them to help them balance. Irene opened her mouth to scream, right as the jaws of the dinosaur closed over her head and pulled it from her shoulders. The cranium was completely mulched in the creature's chomping chops. Pulp's brain matter and shards of busted skull showered the grass, sprinkling it like a quick dust of rainfall. The dinosaur pulled away from the falling corpse. A tangled, gory root hung out from where the girl's head had been upheaved. It ended in a wheezing pipe which spluttered red blood. The body collapsed with a wet thump. Grandpa spun around. His jowls shook and his knees knocked together. He'd been ahead of his granddaughter, so he'd missed the gory collision. Irene? Grandpa asked, concern knitting through the wrinkles in his face. Where are you? He heard something chitter before it ruffled through the grass. It sounded insectile. That's the word they put, insectile. Grandpa wished he'd brought his rifle down from the house with him. He felt naked without his gun, while an unknown animal neared him. Irene, Luke, y'all better not be playing a prank on your old grandpa. I'll be right mad if you are. The dinosaur rose up beside him. Grandpa whirled towards it, startled by the sheer impossibility of it. Oh, Grandpa muttered. Sweet Jesus. The dinosaur's mouth fell open. A tattered blob of flesh plopped into the soggy ground. Grandpa looked down at it as if the clump of masticated meat was an offering of peace. He shrieked when he recognized the locks of auburn hair and the pale blue eye mashed in with the meat. Grandpa's head shot straight up before the monster pounced on him. The prehistoric creature drove him into the earth, screaming. Grandpa beat at its snout with his fist, but his blows were weak. The dinosaur had already secured its jaw around his torso. Grandpa screamed as the creature rolled over like a crocodile. He could feel his bones breaking from the force of the animal's grip. Oh god, there's that word again, tumultuous tumbling of its body, and the shredding power of its teeth. Grandpa's arms and legs all broke with clamorous pops. No! Grandpa screamed. No! Jesus, no! The dinosaur righted itself, standing up on its hind legs once more. It released the old man, allowing him to wallow in his pain. Please, Lord Jesus, Grandpa whined. No, not like this, please! The beast stamped down on his back with a 3-toed foot, driving Grandpa into the murky earth. The dinosaur honked with its satisfaction. Honk! A joke. Its compressive foot blew a hot load of mucus-lined organs from... Oh, wow, okay. Let me reread this for you, just so you can listen to this. Its compressive foot blew a hot load of mucus-lined organs from Grandpa's rear. He felt the unspooled innards fill the seat of his pants and squirm down his inner thighs. Oh, Jesus, he repeated one more time. The creature bore down on him with all its weight. Grandpa's throat prolapsed. Organs, gore, blood, soupy upchuck, and the inner lining of his esophagus all blew out of his jabbering mouth with a concussive cough. The dinosaur stepped back. It tilted down and sniffed the blood-soaked... The blood-soused earth, investigating the matter its kill had expulsed. To the dinosaur, it smelled like good eating. And we're now on chapter 5. So, what does everyone think of that chapter? Let's analyze this. About the sequel, there is no more sequel. There's a sequel. There's a sequel. What do you mean there is no more sequel? There is a sequel. Trust me. There is a sequel. We've seen it. It's so bad. This is pretty much... It's a strange fan fiction. It definitely reads like a fan fiction. It reads like a fan fiction. I love how instead of calling him Bill, it's Grandpa. Grandpa Bill? Grandpa Bill's gone. It's just Grandpa. Grandpa got stepped on, and so he prolapsed. And that's how he died. I don't know what to say about this. No, I reject your reality. I mean, fair. I don't blame you at all. Do not blame you. Right. Death by prolapse. Yeah. No, sequel. It's a sequel, but without the same characters, I'm assuming. I mean, yeah, they do have stuff like that quite a lot in their books. I'm just remembering magic and the certain things that happen in it. I was like, oh, this person has a certain type of fetish. I'm seeing it slowly coming back. Just so we're all on the same page. But let's chat. We're gonna read this whole thing. We're about 30% of the way through the book already. We're on chapter 5. We're just gonna dive straight into it. It's quite normal for... It is! But I've read other splatterpunk that did it in... it was just written better, I guess I could say. I don't know. It's still a good read. It's weird, but I never heard of the genre. What are these kids today coming up with? Oh, Eno. We need to educate you on splatterpunk and extreme horror. They're messed up. messed up. Anyway. Chapter 5. Driving onto Meteorite Acres, Lincoln held his breath. He was trying his best not to let the idiots from the gas station bother him. Their words had stung. He was a naturally protective guy, and he was thankful Ian had insisted they just leave without an escalated confrontation. If Ian hadn't been there, Lincoln would have decked the hick in his rotten mouth. The things they said about our girls, fuckers. Fucking fuckers. The car crept up the drive towards the house. When he'd rented the cabin, Lincoln had been instructed to retrieve the keys directly from the dude that owned the property. An old man named Bill, who assured them the cabins were clean, equipped with hot water, and didn't have any Wi-Fi services. During their correspondence, Bill had told Lincoln that most of their customers were honeymooners, or... That doesn't make sense. Most of their customers were honeymooners or creatives. What does that mean? What does it mean that they were honeymooners or creatives? Sometimes a popular horror author came out just to get away from the world and write, but Bill wouldn't spill the beans on which horror author he was referring to, although Bill did let slip that her latest book was about a killer who dressed like a unicorn. Do you think that's like a hint to a book they've written? Lincoln made a mental note to try to find and read that book. They parked ahead of the house, and Lincoln crawled out from the driver's seat. When the doors to the vehicle opened, he turned and told his pals that they didn't need to get out. "I'll just be a minute. All I gotta do is grab the keys and we're set." "I just want to stretch my legs," Polly said. She posed like a model, jutting a hip and holding one of her curvy legs ahead of her. "Don't they look stretchy?" Lincoln grinned before walking up the porch and knocking on the door. He checked his wristwatch. It was 6. The sun was beginning to fall. All he could hear, aside from his girlfriend, Ian and Mindy's... Oh my god, the name. Wasn't it Mandy? Now it's Mindy? I don't know. Mindy's chatter was the wind whispering through the trees. Next to the house, there was a patch of land dotted with green Christmas trees. Beyond that, there lay thick forestry. The oh my god, why do they spell it wrong? The Missouri woods were so dense. I'm just reading how it's spelled. Lincoln couldn't help but imagine them as a jungle. His imagination was childlike. It's what made him enjoy writing the way he did. Lincoln didn't write serious books about real issues. He wrote high-spirited fantasy quests which clipped along with fast paces. None of his work had been published yet. He was honestly considering self-publishing, under a pseudonym, of course. If the dean found out that one of his students was making passive income with smutty fantasy novels, then there could be trouble. I could rent a cabin out here during the summer, but I could churn out a first draft with all this peace and quiet. No, don't think about it. You're here to party. Don't think about school or life or books or shit. Just think about beer and Polly's stretchy legs. Lincoln rapped his knuckles against the door. He pocketed his hand and waited. No one answered. It was Mindy because I was waiting for Mork to appear. Oh, right, thank you. Don't check. Oh, no, I will check. They are going to get chomped down. He tried knocking again. After a few seconds, Lincoln looked over his shoulder and scanned the yard. Ahead of the house, the farm dipped at a sharp incline which ended with a murky pond. Then, there was a field of tall grass followed by another row of compacted trees. Which way are the cabins? Lincoln tried to remember what Bill had said over the phone. Past the pond, you can even go fishing in it if you like. Yes, that sounded right. They just walked down the hill and around the pond, and the cabins would be behind the row of trees. Lincoln knocked once again. He put more force behind his blows, hoping to rouse Bill. The old man must have been asleep. Lincoln couldn't blame him. The atmosphere on the farm was relaxing. Door creaked open on Lincoln's last knock. Why should I not check Discord, by the way? That makes me nervous. Okay, I'm looking. Oh, there's the pocket. That picture's terrifying. Why would you tell me that? Anyway, chapter 6. Chapter 6. That's a recommended book by the author? No. You lie. When Lincoln came back from the house, he had a dangling key from his fist. It was attached to a paper tag which read, Cabin 3. No one was home, Lincoln shrugged. But the door was unlocked, so I guess we're good to go. Weren't you supposed to meet the guy? Ian asked, stretching his arms over his head. Yeah, guess he forgot, or had an emergency. I'll come back up tomorrow and touch base with him. Lincoln slapped the hood of the car. I think I know where the cabins are. Let's just leave the car here so Bill knows we came by. You don't want to drive down? Mindy asked. Nah, they're just behind those trees. Not a long walk at all. Lincoln flexed his arms. We'll lug the cooler. You girls don't have to lift a finger. How wonderfully... Shoot... Oh my god, why is this word a thing? It's not even a it's a made-up word. This is the issue, right? But I think I know what they're trying to say, but it's spelt wrong as well. But anyway, it's about chivalry. Chivalry isn't dead. Polly yipped before jumping into Lincoln's arms and smooching his face. I like your hair. Thanks. I like your name. Keep oohing. Ooh. Yeah, come on, Ian, let's do this, Lincoln laughed as he set his girlfriend back to her feet. They opened the hatch and pulled their cooler out. Ian and Lincoln let the girls set some of their luggage on top of the container, but Mindy insisted on carrying her toiletry bag herself. That's true. You are right, then. I'm worried your arms will pop out if a leaf falls on all that weight, Mindy chided. Nah, we're big, strong oxmen, Lincoln woofed. Ain't that right? Sure, Ian rolled his eyes. Why? Okay, the thing is, the author keeps calling them the foursome. So, ooh. I'm reading Splatter-Saurus by Judith Sonnet, which is a splatterpunk horror. It's been an experience so far. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things in this book. So it's a thing. What are you reading? The foursome moved down the hill, laughing as they went. Skirting around Crater Pond, Polly joked about pushing Mindy in. Mindy inhaled deeply, then grimaced. Yeesh. You better not. That pond smells foul. Smells like fish, Ian said. Hey, maybe I'll catch us some if they've got a fishing rod in their cabin. They do, Lincoln chimed in. Bill told me we're allowed to fish all we want. We packed plenty of snacks, didn't we? Polly asked, looking a bit green. Yeah. Bologna, marshmallows, bacon, chips, pretzels, Winnies, the usual campfire stuff. But fresh caught fish? Come on. You know you'll like it, Ian said. I'll catch us some breakfast in the morning and we'll do bacon and eggs in the morning, Lincoln cut in. Fish for lunch, booze for dinner. Well, I'm getting kind of hungry now. What are we eating tonight? Polly asked, nudging Mindy. We are going to sacrifice one of you tonight, actually, Lincoln stated. You ain't lived until you've eaten fresh girl meat. Har har, Polly said. That's probably what those guys were thinking at the gas station. You see the way they looked at us when we walked in? Gave me the shivers, Mindy said, recalling the hungry gaze of the rednecks. Ugh, don't remind me, Lincoln muttered. Ian spoke up. Lincoln was actually going to fight those two to defend your honor. What, really? Polly asked. Lincoln shrugged, which jostled the cooler. Mindy could hear ice sloshing around inside it. It made her throat feel dry. She couldn't wait to crack open her first drink of the night. Being cloistered away at Creston meant she hadn't had a sip of alcohol since the summer after high school. She missed it dearly. After circling around Crater Pond, the foursome waddled towards the trees. They avoided the tall stalks of grass, not wanting to pick up ticks and itchy rashes from hidden ivy. After breaking through the tree line, they came upon the first cabin. "That's one," Lincoln said, nodding towards the number posted out beside the door. "Got a little ways to go, I reckon." "Wow, I hope all of them are this nice," Mindy intoned, clutching her toiletry bag like a teddy bear. "I bet they are. Come on," Lincoln said. They walked past the cabin, but not without taking some time to eyeball it. The wooden building was squat but spacious. It had a porch, an alcove, and its windows exposed a luscious interior. Mindy even caught sight of a moose head hanging over a fireplace. The walk was longer than anticipated. There was a thin trail which connected the cabins, but they were set apart from each other to maximize individual privacy. When they finally approached cabin 3, their legs were sore, and their pits were sweaty. The boys were huffing as they carried the stuffed cooler up the porch. Lincoln released a gust of exasperated air after setting his end of the cooler down. After dredging the keys from his pocket, he opened the door and held it for his friends. "Whoa," Polly said as she entered the cabin. "This is gorgeous. Oh my god." "We can get trashed, but let's not trash the place, you dig?" Lincoln said. "I wouldn't dream of it," Mindy said as she walked in. She flipped on the light switch and illuminated their surroundings. There were taxidermied animals, a duck mid-flight, a wolf's head, and even a beaver standing near the fireplace. The hardwood floor almost glistened under the light, and the curved logs that made the walls were sleek and slick. There was a queen-size bed, a kitchen, and a ladder that led up to a cute alcove where a cot was set. Mindy imagined she and Ian would be sharing the cot. Lincoln had spent his own money on the rental, so he and Polly were owed the bed as far as Mindy was concerned. Not bad at all," Ian whistled as he and Lincoln took the container towards the corner, which served as the kitchen. There was no oven or dishwasher, only a sink and a cupboard for plates and pantry items. There was a skillet, a bottle of lighter fluid, and a stack of paper plates set on the counter. Stowed away beside the sink was a mini fridge, which Mindy went to and opened. "Look, guys, Bill keeps it stocked." Mindy drew out a can of Pepsi. She tapped the top before pulling the tab. She took a swig and sighed in an orgasmic manner after. "I'm going to fix us up something to munch on," Lincoln said. "Then let's start drinking." "Hear, hear," Polly cheered from the cubicle-shaped restroom. Lincoln dug around in the cooler before deciding that they'd be eating fried bologna sandwiches. Why is it called bologna? What is bologna sandwiches? With Kraft cheese. Is that like the fake cheese in like a can or something like that? He grabbed the skillet, a can of cooking spray, and opened the back door. Sure enough, there was a rusted grill sitting on the back porch. In no time at all, the bologna was sizzling on the skillet. Lincoln whistled while he cooked. No, it says bologna. Oh, bologna! Oh, right, okay, thank you, Eno. Oh, okay, thank you, everyone, I appreciate it. Lincoln whistled while he cooked. His friends sat outside with him, enjoying the smell of their encroaching dinner. They animatedly chatted about whatever came to mind. Polly sat on the wooden railing, kicking her legs out over the edge like a toddler sitting on a short end of a swimming pool. She breathed in deep before speaking. I love the way the trees smell, don't y'all?" "Yeah," Ian said. "I swear to God, Creston smells sterile like a hospital." "Ugh, let's not talk about school," Mindy laughed before grabbing her boyfriend's hand and giving it a squeeze. "Grub time," Lincoln announced. Everyone stacked their plates with sandwiches and ate voraciously. After driving the walk, Mindy was hungry, her stomach muled as she ate. Usually, she would have found a fried bologna sandwich with cheese to be cheap and tacky, but the flavours sang on her wary tongue. Maybe it was the atmosphere that aided in the experience, but she was confident that this was above and beyond a 5-star meal. She savoured each bite and followed them with another swig of her ice-cold soda. Before long, she was eating with her eyes closed, as if she was experiencing the highest of high cuisine. You like it? Lincoln asked. This might be your finest meal yet, Polly said. She leaned over and planted a mustard-stained kiss on Lincoln's cheek. He blushed and dabbed at his face with a napkin. Ooh. What genre do you usually enjoy? See, I like my horror books. I've slowly started to dive into fantasy quite a bit, and a little bit of sci-fi, but mainly I read horror. What about you? What genre do you usually enjoy reading? Tell us about your new project, Link, Ian said around a mouthful of bread. You were telling me about it last week. You start writing it yet? Link's face turned an even deeper shade of red. I don't know. What with school and everything, I barely have time to write anymore. I've got some notes, but... Well, what's it about? Mindy asked, curious. She hoped that someday Lincoln would hit it big. He had enough ideas to fill a library, and all of them were out there. She was a concrete and realistic person, so Lincoln's ability to build unique worlds was baffling to her. Well, if y'all really want to hear about it, he crossed his arms and tucked his hands into fists. But don't judge me if it's silly. Nah, they'll love it. Go on, man. Tell them what you told me, Ian said as he nibbled on a floppy bit of crust. We're on page 36. They'll accept me for who I am. Look at him. He's so encouraging and kind, Mindy thought. I mean, telling his buddy to talk about an unwritten book isn't like accepting someone for their sexuality. Christ, will you shut up? That's what she started saying to herself, by the way. Mindy's consciousness was so full of doubt and strife, it pained her how often her internal thoughts devolved into arguments. She just wished she would enjoy the moment, because the moment was one worth enjoying. Her stomach was filled with good food, and her heart was warm. Her friends were all happy, and the sun had set. The forest was calm, quiet, and tranquil. Why did she have to go down rabbit trails in her brain when everything around her was so benign? She turned her attention back towards Lincoln and listened attentively while he described the adventures of a space pirate and his crew. And we're about to go on to chapter 7. I enjoy history, religion, and philosophy. Name a more iconic trio. I'll wait. Oh no. Bless you. Do you have any books that you would recommend? We're just gonna have a quick little mini break because I am bursting for a wee, so we're gonna have a quick moment. So this is your time to go get a quick drink, refreshments or whatever, and we'll be right back. Hello again. Hello, we have returned. May, Hammond, Clarkson. No title coming to mind at the moment. It's alright. Oh, do you have a preferred history period? Ooh, here's a thing. That's a good question. I like that question. That is a very good question. And Dan's gonna like this because chapter 7 is the point of view as the redneck, so we get to do the voices. Ooh, an 18th century. Very, very nice. Why that one specific? What drew you to that era specifically, that time period specifically? If you don't mind me asking. Right. If you just so you all know, we're about 43%. Wow, English is really difficult. English is hard. We're 43% of the way through the book already. Yeah, we don't touch that stuff in school at all. Trust me on that. I love the fashion. Oh yeah, plus the kings and queens are very fancy and funny. I mean, there is that. See, I enjoy the fashion more from like the 1920s sort of stuff. I love the fashion then. Oh, Milo barked. 1 second while I mute myself while I go tell him to. Okay. I think he's finished this moment. I'm not even halfway in. I'm getting the go for it, you know, go for it. Right. Are you ready to experience the redneck's view? Angus released a syrupy burp. He beat a fist against his chest, as if there was something lodged in his rib. You sure it belongs to them city folk? Paul asked. Sure as shit, brother. Angus peered into the driver's side window. Yep, this is theirs. All right, must be staying down at one of Bill Campton's shoots. Well, yeah. Where's Bill at? Paul asked, wringing his stubby hands together and shivering. He wasn't always as bold as his brother. Usually, when the Brewer boys were causing trouble, it was Angus Brewer's fault. Paul was just along for the ride. Jesus, Paul, I don't know, Angus said. He ain't here, that's for damn sure. This is gonna be awful. They had gone up to Bill's door to try and figure out which cabin the youths were staying at, but the door was unlocked and no one was home. Angus had spotted the key rack and observed that the key to cabin number 3 was nowhere to be found. Now they were trying to formulate a plan. Planning things out wasn't a strong suit for the Brewer brothers. Usually they went after folks. It was on a whim. Like the time they'd picked up a teenage hitchhiker and treated her to a few hours of... Okay. I don't know how, Okay. Like the time they'd picked up a teenage hitchhiker and treated to a few hours of, butt pew-pew before Angus got the bright idea to stick a garden hose up her cat like a catheter. It'd been a good laugh turning the hose on and filling her up until her belly was a distended bulge. Then they'd taken turns stomping on her swollen gut until it popped. Paul had spent many nights worried that the law would come after them for that hurt they put on the poor girl. Yeah. Trust me. That's why I stopped for a minute and I was like, huh. Yeah, I feel regret coming with this book. I'm just gonna turn to the next page. I'm gonna skip to the next page. 1 second. Okay. Oh, okay. No, I'm not reading that bit. We're just gonna skip past them bits. Skipping past them bits. Oh, that's... Oh. What are we going to do with them city kids? Angus asked, drawing Paul back to the present. Yeah, I mean, I didn't like them transients and hitchhikers, you know? If we let them city kids live, they could lead the coppers right back to the station. Probably pick us up in a lineup. Lickety-split. We skipped 2 full pages then. 2 full pages, because what was happening on them pages... The best thing I can say for at least one person to understand in chat is... Then, think of... was it the clown hunt with the wishbone scene? Kind of like that, but trying to push it back in. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you got this as well? Quality Infinite, ladies and gents. Oh, you think so? You're right, Paulie. Angus cracked his knuckles. What if we take us our shotgun and make sure them boys can't fight us none? Maybe kill him outright, sure. I'd like to make that jock suffer, but I wanna fuck his... Beesh a whole lot more. Paul nodded. I think that's right, level-headed, yeah, of your brother. Thank you, Paul, I agree. I think the tubby red-headed one was the jocks on the... I'm not using that term. Was shot up with the mousy lady. I think you're on the money there. Angus turned away from his brother and strode towards the pickup. Their shotguns were resting on a rack behind their car seats. We'll just clip them fellas, have us a night with them girls, and then we'll just kill them off too. Easy peasy. I had to do it for censorship. This isn't Twitch. Twitch, I just read it, but not here. Wow. Well, we gotta clean up after ourselves. What with the cops being able to trace DNA evidence and all, Paul said. He'd been watching cop shows on the TV and was learning a whole lot. DNA evidence? Angus asked as he pulled a pump-action Mossberg out and held it up for his brother to take. Yeah, like sperm and stuff. They just traced that back to us. Oh, shit! Make a man consider a few things. We ought to be more careful, I guess. Oh, yes. You got you some rubbers? I know we don't like wearing them, but I'd rather wrap it than get sent to the slammer, Paul said. You must be all that smart genes from Pappy, Paul, because you thinking up all sorts of wisdoms I ain't even considered, Angus said as he popped the glove compartment and pulled out a deck of condoms. They's expired, but I think it'll be fine. Oh yeah, them expiration dates ain't nothing but a scam, Paul agreed. Paul and Angus weren't smart boys, but they were creative. When it came to hurting others, they treated their actions like an art form. Paul could get jittery before they put the hurt on a person, but as the duo walked towards Crater Pond, he felt his snake thump with excitement, anticipation, lust, desire, need. Night had only just fallen, so they had a whole lot of time to play with the college girls before they needed to be back at the station for another shift. Paul licked his lips and glanced towards his brother. Angus, ya plump forgot your gun, Paul hooted. I don't want to use it. Angus shook his head. Not as fun as this. He stomped over and lifted a muddy pant leg. There was a knife tied above his ankle, sheathed in a leather holster. I figure you'll shoot one of the boys and I'll slice the others in jugular. I doubt them pussyfoot city folk have any guns on them, so they won't even be able to fight back. That's why I'm like, oh. What if they do got guns though? Paul asked. You never see a You never see a city guy with a gun? Angus asked. Neither have I. Something snuffled from the other side of Crater Pond. Paul and Angus froze. We were too loud. We let them know we were on our way. Paul thought, mostly. He hefted the Mossberg up and fingered the trigger. Wait! Angus took the snout of the gun and knocked it towards the ground. Wait, did you see that? The skinny redneck's voice was iced with wonder, terror, and confusion. See what? Paul asked. The critter. What you talking about? It slunk off into the grass. You didn't see it? I know, Van. Angus's jaw fell open. My God, must have been the size of a person and bright orange. What you talking about? Paul repeated. Oh wait, no, wait, who's oh whatever. You saw an animal? Animal? More like a monster. Paul sniggered. Now you're just fucking with me. Come on, Angus. Let's get on down to the cabin. No, Paul, I'm telling you, I saw it. Standing right by the pond and taking a drink. First, I thought it must have been a figment of my imagination or something. Then it moved. It looked up Soares and backed up all sneaky-like. Well, what was it, like a Bigfoot? Nah, it wasn't like that. It was a big old lizard. Paul honked with laughter. You're really committed to this one, aren't you, Angus? Look, if you don't want to go fuck them college girls, all you had to say was, Christ, Paul, I'm not pulling your leg here. I done saw it, I swear. Well, calm down, brother. What do you want to do about it? Angus swallowed a lump before glancing back across Crater Pond. I don't know. I ain't gonna lie to you, Paul. I'm awful spooked. I'm doing a proper review of this. I will be doing a proper review of this, don't you worry. As if on cue, a low growl issued up from the field of overgrowth. The grass shuffled as something big moved through it. Paul wasn't superstitious or easily conned. He believed that someone was playing a joke on him and his brother. I'll put this to rest right this second, Paul thought. He hefted up his gun and fired into the air. The noise of the Mossberg spluttered red chunks. Waves of smoke swirled through the night above the brothers. And that's the end of chapter 7. We're going on to chapter 8 in a second. We're back to the college kids on that one. This book, Jesus, there was quite a few bits that I had to try and think of a way to censor it or just skip ahead without losing too much. But the book itself is bonkers anyway. Yeah, it keeps saying it's a large orange lizard. I don't know. Yep, that's what it says. DNA evidence. Censorship. My ears are crying listening to this book. Seriously, you should try reading it. My eyes are crying. Yeah. I would love support for this book. To do a review for this is mental. We're only 51% of the way through. And we've read about half of the pages. We've got another 40-something pages to read, so let's just get through this, and then I don't know. I don't know what to say. Go for it. Grab your drinks and stuff. I just need a moment to understand what I'm reading. Comparing this to the other book that I read from them, this one makes less sense in a weird way than the other one. You're here for it, Dan. I think you're just as messed up as me. Like, for real. Ugh. Oh no, I would say if you've never read anything like that, splatterpunk is a different level of horror, and this falls into splatterpunk and then kind of edges along the side of extreme horror, which I would not say is for people beginning in horror. There's much nicer horror books to read where it doesn't have all this shit going on. So I would never recommend this for someone who wants to get into horror at all. I'd be like, stay away from splatterpunk and stay away from extreme horror, because them things are a whole nother level, and even I get like, oh my god with it. Like, it's an experience. One book's been good, the rest were unfortunate. The one book I even binned, and I don't like binning books. I don't usually read horror. Most I've read, like, Goosebumps is a YA horror. I think Goosebumps is good. Goosebumps is good. Nothing wrong with reading Goosebumps. Goosebumps, even to this day, is iconic for certain things that happen in them. This is splatterpunk, extreme splatterpunk horror. So it's mainly splatterpunk, but there's certain things that I skipped on a couple of pages just before, about 2 pages worth, that would class it go into the extreme horror, which is extremely uncomfortable, and just, I don't understand how people can write scenes like that. So you're lucky. I will happily like take a screenshot of them pages and send them to you, though, you know. Goosebumps is very good, but I'm also pretty tame, especially compared to... Oh, well, this is what I'm saying. This is extreme splatterpunk horror. It's anything else is tame to this. This is not the type of books that I normally read. I don't read these type of books normally. Normally, I read stuff like... I like Lovecraft. I like... only just started to read Stephen King. More like cringe horror. Am I too old? You might be a bit too old, you know. But you know what? We still appreciate you. Yeah, exactly. Double thumbs up for Goosebumps. Hell yeah. Double thumbs up. We could actually do a little... If we work it out, we could maybe get a hold of some Goosebumps books even. Or anything written by, was it R.L. Stein? And see what we can, like, read. Maybe do a vote in Discord and on here, on YouTube, of what other ones we could do in. But anyway... Let me just wet my whistle before we go into chapter 8. Oh yeah, but the thing is, it literally, this book is not nice to religion. It literally hated on the Bible just before, and it's uncomfortable. It can be uncomfortable depending on your views, spirituality, and all that jazz. Which is why I normally take a wide berth when it comes to things with that. I'm like, everyone can do what they want. Like, you can have your own beliefs, opinions, absolutely. You know, free will, hell yeah. Just don't bring hate. Reading this book. If you would like to come over and read chapter 8 for us, that would be grand. Ugh. Yeah, Ven's got a nice big old cup of tea. No, but I can dial in. Ooh, we might have to do that. Would you do that? I don't know. There's a lot of things. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep doing. We're gonna keep going. I don't think I'm not allowed coffee anymore. It's very rare that I do, and if anything, it'll normally be like an iced frappuccino that will literally like diabetes, sugar rush at the same time, and oop, bad news for me. Anyway, let's get on with this. Oh, herbal tea. I've never really drink herbal tea before. Anyway, chapter 8. Well, if we're only 51% of the way in, Jesus. I mean, I need to die of something. I mean, yeah, but long life. I can't die healthy. Bless. Mindy sat upright and cranked her head towards the woods. Like a pert meerkat, she stood and braced herself against the railing. Did you guys hear that? She whispered. I think it was thunder, Polly said as she dove into a second sandwich. Or a backfiring car. Maybe Bill came back, Lincoln theorized. Or a gunshot, Ian stated. The four fell silent and still. I mean, we're out in the middle of nowhere. I'll bet someone's hunting. That's true, I am lactose intolerant. Doesn't stop me though, hell nah. In these woods? Polly asked, concerned. No, probably on a neighbouring farm. Sound carries a long way when you aren't surrounded by buildings and cars and shit. Ian tried to sound reassuring. He turned towards Mindy and offered her his best smile. His girlfriend laughed and said, You've got crud on your teeth. I know, I'm saving it for later. Ian's grin widened. Mindy was giggling now. She leaned over and rested her head on his shoulder. He wrapped an arm around her and squeezed her close, enjoying her warmth and the cushiony feel of her breasts against his abdomen. This was the most touching that either of them had done. At Creston, any display of PDA was looked down upon, and of course, girls and boys weren't allowed in the same dorm buildings. All he and Mindy had really done so far was hold hands, kiss in his car, and give each other knowing glances when no one else was paying attention. The idea of being close and intimate with Mindy made Ian's heart flutter like a butterfly in a tropical storm. His teeth chattered and his knees oozed oily sweat. She reached up and set a hand on his sternum. She must have stuck a fork in a wall socket while holding his hand. He felt prickly all over his body, and especially in a certain place. I don't like Mindy. Do you not? No. She's sus. Everyone's sus in this book. Well, I think it's beer 30, Lincoln looked at his watch. About time, Polly cheered. Lincoln stood, gathered their plates, and walked them inside. When he returned, a six-pack dangled from his calloused hands. Liberations? Liberations? Anyone want liberations? Mindy scooted away from Ian so she could reach out and take a can from the plastic ring hanging from Lincoln's hand. She opened the beer and guzzled it, putting it down a lot faster than Ian expected. He smiled with admiration as he sipped at his own drink. He enjoyed the warm feelings that coursed into his veins, the tart taste of the alcohol, and the happiness that swaddled him. I skipped a bit. I did. We've also got whiskey, rum, and some sodas, but I guess we could have saved the room since Bill stocked the fridge. Lincoln sat down on the railing next to Polly. They tapped their drinks together. Oh no. I even got some of that disgusting grapefruit Schofferhofer. That Ian loves so much. Don't knock until you try it, Ian contested. I'll try it when I'm dead, Lincoln said firmly. Oh. Jesus! Angus slapped his hands over his ears. Why'd you go and do that for? Figured it'd scare whatever it was off, Paul said. God damn it, Paul, you done near give me a heart attack. Paul smiled. Yeah, crap your drawers. No, Angus blushed. You You squirted, I bet you did. I'd be willing to lay money on it. Shut up, you damn fool. Woo-wee. Wait till I tell the boys at the bar that you shat your skivvies. Angus grabbed his brother by the throat. His grip was calloused and cruel. His fist tightened around Paul's windpipe, igniting a fire in his lungs. Paul coughed. Even though he held the Mossberg, he felt powerless in his brother's hands. Oh, Pokemon is... Okay, yeah, let's give us a list of Pokemon that we can do. This is... Seriously, this is how it's written, so that's how I'm reading it. Yeah, want to keep talking your shit? Angus asked. Or do you want to shut your trap and go fuck us some bitches? What the fuck? Paul wheezed and jerked his head up and down. Angus relinquished his hold on Paul, and the fatter of the two collapsed to his knees. He dropped his gun and clawed at his throat. Racked with coughs, Paul was struggling to hold back tears. Oh, come on, Paul. I didn't hurt you that bad. Deep self. Deep self. You would save me, Aberdeen. No. Paul looked up towards his brother. His lips curled as he prepared to fling an insult Angus's way. Then, Paul froze. His jaw fell open and his eyes widened. What? Angus asked. What is it? Shaking like a leaf, Paul pointed over Angus's head. The skinny redneck spun around. Oh, Angus said. All his gusto and... whatever. His macho leaked out of him. It poured down his leg and puddled beside his shoe. The orange creature had snuck around Crater Pond, and it was standing only a few yards away from the brothers. Its salivating maw popped open like a lizard with a worm in its sights. It was bipedal, and its tail hovered over the soggy earth. Paul didn't even know much about dinosaurs, and even if he did, he didn't think any of that knowledge would have helped him or his kin in this awful moment. The dinosaur was the same as a rabid dog, a pissed-off mountain lion, or a curled rattlesnake. It was an animal, and it either saw the Brewer boys as a threat or a meal. Either way, the creature was going to follow its instincts and tear the men apart. Paul reached down and plucked the Mossberg from the ground. Chunks of mud clung to the gun's nose. Angus held his arms out to his sides as if he was balancing on a tight wire. Is that a dinosaur? Angus asked. I don't know, Paul said. He was on his knees, tucking the stock of his chubby gun against his hip. A T-Rex? I think it's too small for that, Paul said, observing that the reptilian beast was 6 feet tall, but it was about 8 feet long from nose to tail. Bet it weighs a ton. That one swipe of its claws could pull a man's insides out, but it could take a chunk of the size of Texas out of someone just one chomp. We should run, Angus rasped. What? What else can we do? I don't know, but if we run, won't it chase us? Paul gulped. Thanks. Thanks, everyone. I think we ought to run. Angus took a step back. The dinosaur stepped forward, mirroring Angus's motion. Oh, God, Angus mumbled. Paul's knees were starting to smart. He wished he could sit back on his cumbersome rump to take to his feet. He felt as if the creature would take note if he sweated too hard, so he remained frozen with his finger on the trigger. Dive to the side, Paul said. Huh? Angus asked. You dive, and when the critter starts for us, I'll shoot it. Shoot it? Angus hazarded a glance over his shoulder, spotted the Mossberg in Paul's hands, and pursed his lips. You really think a butt'll stop that? Paul tightened his jaw. I don't know, man. Maybe I'll scare it off. Both brothers looked back at the dinosaur. Its muscles were coiled as if it was preparing to leap towards them. A soft hiss escaped its mouth. A sudsy froth was seeping from the edges of the creature's jaws. The foam was tinted pink with blood. It's killed before. A person or an animal? Don't know. Don't need to know. Just make sure you're aiming off. Okay, Paul, Angus said. I'ma do it. Okay, Angus. Paul hefted up the gun. His motion caused the dinosaur to snarl. Its growl was reminiscent of a rabid bulldog. 3. Angus bent his knees. 2. Paul rubs at the trigger. 1. Angus kicked dirt. He pivoted to the side and dived toward Crater Pond. Paul swept himself up to his feet and fired. The concussive blow of gunpowder was as loud as thunder. It rocked the earth and filled Paul's eye with smoke. Did I get it? Paul thought as he stepped away from the cloud of gun smoke. Just as the dinosaur burst through it, Paul expected to see a red hole seared through the dinosaur's face. He was disappointed to realize that either he'd miss, or the Mossberg was about as much impact as a raindrop on a concrete slab. The dinosaur charged into him. It tucked its head down and slammed into Paul's full belly. He felt his organs jostle and his bones clang. Paul was lifted off his feet and thrown into the air at an awkward angle. He smashed into Crater Pond, his mouth filled with swampy water. He gasped and cried, causing bubbles to fly from his mouth and erupt from the pond's rocking top. Paul clawed his way up the surface. He sucked in a hot and musty breath, blinking away the pond water that coagulated around his eyes. Please, 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 Jesus, let it all be a dream. I'm waking up now, and it'll be a dream, Paul heard his brother scream. Backing through the thick pond water, he looked towards the shore and caught sight of Angus. The dinosaur had grabbed Angus by the ankle and was pulling him along the ground. Angus was clawing at the grassy, speckled earth. dredging up clods of dirt and drawing trenches with its clawed fingers. His foot was smashed between the dinosaur's jaws. The creature opened and closed its mouth with a violent clap. It fractured the bones in the redneck's foot, rumbling his shoe like an emptied beer can. "Help!" Angus cried. "Help, Paul, help!" The dinosaur tossed Angus through the air. One turn of the bulky brute's body lifted Angus up and sent him spinning like an organic frisbee. Angus's scream warbled comedically before his body struck a nearby tree. Paul watched in shock as his brother wrapped around the sturdy shaft of the tree. Angus's belly ruptured, throwing globs of blood out in a wide sheet. It painted the trunk, dribbled down the branches, and ruffled the leaves. Angus seemed to slither down the trunk before resting out of sight in the overgrowth surrounding the roots. That killed him, that killed him. The dinosaur killed my brother. Paul began to cry loudly. He turned and waddled through the pond, working his way towards its center. The muddy bottom dropped out from under him, and Paul struggled to swim ahead. Tears iced his cheeks. Scummy water seeped through his lips and sluiced down his throat. He didn't care. He was too panicked to worry about swallowing a bullfrog or muddying his clothes. His guts hurt. He could feel a massive bruise growing underneath his lumpy belly. His organs felt as if they'd been crushed up by aggressive hands. He was farting uncontrollably, and the bubble trail behind him stank like sulfur. It broke... It was so weird. It broke something inside of me, but I'm alive. I'm alive. My brother is dead. Oh, Jesus! It felt like an hour had passed before he reached the other end of Crater Pond. Paul looked behind him, expecting to see the dinosaur at his rear. He was thankful to see that the creature was feasting on his brother. The beast was too distracted from the bulky organs it was yanking up from Angus's ruined form to notice its prey was escaping. I gotta get help, Paul thought, as something soupy trickled down his leg. It felt like someone had stuffed a wriggling eel down his pants. That's my innards. They're coming undone. Paul ground his teeth together and crawled towards the tree line. He wasn't going to risk trying to sneak around the dinosaur to return to the truck. Besides, the keys were stuck in Angus's mess. He needed to find the city kids and haul up with them. Maybe one of them knew first aid. They won't be able to patch you up, boy. Your damn guts are falling out. Paul stood and ran. His feet crumbled, shrubbery and thatches of brush. He didn't realize that he'd just called the dinosaur's attention back to him. The monster raced away, leaving rags of flesh wrapped around the tree where Angus had died. That's the end of that chapter. Magic was better than this. Well, Magic was absolutely like unhinged, like, and had a certain type of thing that the person liked to do. This is, I mean, actually, you know what? As long as we don't go into like the stuff that is like not safe for work section, not the gore or anything like that, the other stuff, it's actually quite good. Magic was a hot mess, but it was still somewhat of a good read, but they had a certain thing that they enjoyed. Magic was no, it was not single point of view, but it was mostly single. It was mostly single point of view. Oh yeah, definitely need more than that, than a Band-Aid and an ice pack for sure. It was quite good. But it's more the fact of what this is leading to. Because the other one, I mean, there was some things in it that was just like, oh, are you broken? I am a little bit. Mentally, I think I'm a little bit broken from reading this. Like, no joke. Like, a little bit broken. You think so? We're up to chapter 10. We are 64% of the way through the book. This is Diet Lemonade, by the way. Ugh. Well, we've lost the use of our a little redneck, so we got no more voices now. So I don't know what to give you after that. Yeah, we're 64% of the way through. We started reading this nearly 2 hours ago. We're 64% of the way through. We have 33 pages left to read. It's only 33 pages left to read, so it's not going to be too long. But it's definitely been interesting doing this, for sure. Right, are we ready for chapter 10? Because I don't know if I am. You sent me this, so you should accept responsibility. You absolutely should. Like, what's wrong with you? Why would you do this to me? Great, not in pain at all. Great, I'm glad you're not in pain at all. Can't wait for your September reads. Oh no. Anyway, moving on from that. Let's just do this. Let's try and get through this. Chapter 10, here we go. Let's do this. They were drinking heavily now. Ian held a red Solo cup in his hand. It was filled with way too much rum and not near enough coke. You guys ever do drugs? Polly asked. No, Lincoln said. You know I haven't. Mindy drew a square in the air with her fingers. Ian took a long sip before answering. Yeah, I mean, I've smoked weed before, but nothing serious. Next time we come out here, let's bring cocaine. Whoa! Why did we go from weed to cocaine? Polly flicked a lock of red hair over her shoulder and beamed proudly. Where will we get cocaine? Lincoln asked, goosing his gal. Goosing his gal? Ooh. She yipped and jumped. She's not a dog, why would she yip and jump? Then held out her own cup. Lincoln filled it, then took a drink from the whiskey bottle. None of them were too concerned about germs, as they all shared a drink from the same glass bottle. The alcohol cancels it out, doesn't it? Or is that an urban legend? Ian thought diversively as he flopped down onto the sofa and stretched his legs out ahead of him. Mindy sat down with a groan and set her legs across his lap. He laid a hand on her knee and gave it a reassuring rub. I know a guy, Polly said, continuing where she'd left off. You could definitely score us coke. I'm not sure I'm into that, Mindy said. I mean, I'm all for a little... Oh, God. Neil, spell the word for us. Degeneracy. It's a word I can't pronounce. Oh, no. No. Okay, I have certain words that I cannot pronounce, and this is one of them. And I hope I'd never have to say this. Degeneracy. Yes, that one. But yeah. But cocaine isn't a big deal, Polly interrupted. Wait, have you done coke before? Lincoln asked. Polly's eyes flinched before she nodded. She's lying, Mindy pointed. Polly rolled her eyes. Sure, Mindy. Sure. Polly, we grew up together. If you ever did coke, I'd be the first to know. You don't know my secrets, Polly chided with a sarcastic grin. I know all your secrets, Mindy returned. Lincoln took another long drink from the whiskey bottle and handed it to Mindy. She drank it with both hands like a baby with a sippy cup. I don't know. Anybody feel drunk yet? Lincoln asked. Buzzed, but not drunk. Polly took the bottle from Mindy and swigged it like a pirate. Shit, maybe we should have brought some music along. Lincoln scratched the back of his neck. That was when something large thumped against the front door of the cabin. No one was given the time to consider what had happened before a set of fists battered the door. Help! Help! Oh God, help! A slurred voice shouted from outside. Polly jumped behind Lincoln, shielding herself with his frame. Mindy pulled her legs away from Ian and sat upright. His fists hammered against the door even harder from before. Whoever was on the other side, he was desperate to get in. Or he's trying to surprise us so we don't think clearly. You gotta help me, please! The man cried. I saw it in the woods. It's coming for me. Please. He drew out the last word as he pounded the door. I'm gonna let him in, Lincoln started towards the cabin's front. Polly caught his wrist and jerked hard. What is Raven, boys? You can't do that, she shouted. If I don't, he'll tear the door down, Lincoln countered, tugging his arm away from Polly's grasp. Whimpering, she ran over to the sofa and collapsed into Mindy's arms. The two girls held each other. You know what it is? It's like the stereotypical, like 50s era where there's a horror movie and the girls are, like, holding each other. Girls don't do that. They never do that. The two girls held each other and looked towards their boyfriends expectantly. I'm sorry, Jenny. If anything like that ever happens, I would not expect you to be sat in the back, watching me to deal with things expectantly. Bitch, you're gonna grab like a stick of like a table leg stick, and you're gonna be right next to me, right? What are they supposed to do? Anything but sit there and hold each other. Get yourself something heavy and sturdy in your arms. Make sure things are barricaded if you don't feel safe with doing that. Just don't run into each other's arms and just look at the guys expectantly. It's a new era. Like, be strong, be independent. You're supposed to all be like, I don't need no man. Jenny would not defend me. Jenny would be gone. Yeah. We'll protect you, Ian thought. Whatever this is, we can handle it. Ian stood and raced towards the fireplace. He scooped up a poker and tossed it towards Lincoln. The buff geek caught the poker mid-air and held it in both hands. Please, please, please! The man was weeping now. Ian walked ahead of Lincoln. He grabbed the handle. Ian turned his head so he could make eye contact with his buddy. Lincoln was holding the poker like a Louisville Slugger. You seen trouble, Ian thought. You whap it before it gets out of hand. As if he could read Ian's mind, Lincoln nodded. Ian threw the door open and stepped back. A big, sweaty ball of meat fell through the entrance and smacked the ground. The massive man crawled up to his knees and scuttled across the floor like a dog desperate to get away from his leash. He was instantly at Lincoln's feet, decorating them with sloppy kisses. Oh, thank you. Oh, God, thank you. The big man susurrated. Oh, thanks, Jenny. Good to know. Whoa, calm down, man, Lincoln said, the poker waving in his hand. You, Jesus! The moment his buddy explained, Ian caught the scent too. A rotten egg and fecal odor was hanging around the heavy set. The hick. The seat of his pants was soaked with oily fluid. Something lumpy in the length of Bradford was imprinted against his rear. Ian covered his nose and gagged. The smell reminded him of soiled food left in an unplugged refrigerator. He looked towards the girls and saw that their faces had turned green as well. Battered, hysterical and sobbing, the man collapsed onto the ground and wept loudly. What do you mean you would protect you again? What do you mean, Ben? What happened, man? Lincoln said, visibly swallowing his gorge as he could address the redneck. Man, you wouldn't believe it if I told you, the man chattered. It was terrible. It got Angus. Ate him right up, it did. Hey, Ian shouted. Hey, I recognize this guy. He was at the gas station. He smells like ass, yeah. He smells he smells a lot more than ass, I'll give you that much. Set in fast motion, the man began to jabber towards Ian. Yes, that was us. Aw, gee, man, I'm real sorry. We said some awful stuff, but please don't go kicking me out, I swear. After what I just saw, I'm gonna be a changed man, I swear. You ain't making any sense, Ian said. What's happened? Why are you out here? Sniffling, Paul wiped at his eyes. His fingers were caked in mud and left brown streaks on his cheeks. He was so dirty he looked like he'd taken a bath in a dumpster. And underneath the shitty, tangy odor of his pants, there was a scummy scent of pond water. Paul spoke in a mumble. My brother and I were, well, we was coming out here to give y'all a scare. It was Angus's idea. Not mine, but we saw something around Crater Pond. Ignoring Paul's admittance to targeting Ian and his friends, Ian asked, "What did you see?" "I don't know. It was some sort of monster or something." "You know what I think?" Lincoln took a defensive stance. "I think his brother is waiting out there to try and prank us. This all smells fishy. Close that door, Ian." "Angus is dead," Paul snorted. "Whatever that thing was, it killed him. Killed him and started eating on him. I ran and I thought I'd done got away from it, but I caught it following me, stalking me like a coon dog." It's extremely gross and racist and sexist. There's certain things I just turned past that you've not heard. Ian turned towards the door and started to draw it close. He froze halfway through the motion. "Oh my god, Mindy, did you bring your phone?" Holly asked. "No, I left it at the dorm just like everyone else did, right?" "You ain't got no phones?" Paul sounded dejected. "We've got to get you to a hospital," Mindy said. "Lincoln, think you and Ian could carry him?" "I don't know," Lincoln bit his lower lip. "I doubt it. I mean, no offense, man." "Guys?" Ian asked from the door. "I can walk, or you can get help and bring him back," Paul offered. "If we're leaving, then you're coming with us." Lincoln spoke with an authoritative tone. Oh yeah, it's literally just about the gore and disgusting stuff. "I'm not going to step out of this cabin just so I can get jumped by a couple of... Oh, wait. I'm not going to step out of this cabin just so I can get jumped by a couple of methed up rednecks." "Hey guys," Ian couldn't blink. Staring at the thing in the forest ahead of the cabin, his knees wobbled and his skin grew sweaty. Ian didn't know if he believed in what he was looking at, but he was having a hard time denying it. "We were just gonna knock on the windows and spook you, I swear." Paul shuddered. "I swear on my mama's grave. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Guys," Ian barked. "What?" Lincoln looked away from Paul. Both of the girls fell still, frightened by Ian's tone. "Guys, there's something out here," Ian whispered. Then he slammed the door shut and threw the lock. "Oh Christ, it followed me here," Paul squealed. He began to scramble towards the cabin's rear. Ian backed away from the door. His heart hammered in his chest like a piston. He sucked in a hard breath. "What was it? What is that guy? Was it that guy's buddy?" Lincoln asked, nodding towards Paul. The big man was curled up by the back exit, clutching his gut and moaning. So much movement seemed to cause him pain. The stink was growing worse as well. Whether had happened... Oh god, English is hard. Whatever had happened to his organs, it was going to kill him if he didn't get help soon. But Ian couldn't even consider getting Paul to a hospital. All he could think about was the dinosaur's head didn't break through the door. Instead, the animal had circled around to the side of the cabin and smashed through the window near the sofa. Glass blew into the room, sparkling as it dashed across the floor. Mindy started to stand, frightened to her feet. The move put her arm directly into the dinosaur's chomping maw. The creature latched onto her, then pulled back through the busted window. It dragged her arm into the night air while the rest of her remained lodged in the cabin. Mindy used her free arm to brace herself against the window's frame. Her feet clacked against the inseam where the wall met the floor. Then, after a hesitant breath, she released a wail like a bobcat. "Shit!" Lincoln ran up to Mindy's side. Acting on Acting on defensive impulse, he stabbed through the darkness beyond the window frame with the sharpened point of his poker. His arms shook as the prodding instrument butted against the creature. What is it? Ian thought. It can't be what it looks like. That would be impossible. Fucking crazy impossible. Polly's screams were matching Mindy's. Paul joined in, launching a cry that reminded Ian of a hawk's screech. Ian raced over to Mindy and hooked his arms around her. With a heaving grunt, he pulled her away from the window. She fell into him, spraying blood on his face and across the floor. Her arm had detached at the elbow, leaving a crooked staff of fractured bone hanging from a tangled knot of gored flesh. Mindy's screams continued. She thrashed and bucked around, throwing loads of blood all over the cabin. A stream of black liquid squirted from the ragged amputation and arched through the air like water from a busted drinking fountain. It's got some good neck muscles, yeah, absolutely. Lincoln stepped away from the window, holding his poker ahead of him. Its end was dotted with blood and greased with saline fluids. I think I got its eye, Lincoln stuttered. I think it ran away. The back door burst open. It didn't run away. Wooden splinters decorated the floor and pelted Paul. He cried and tremored but remained in place on the door's bottom. It was, Ian realised, a safe place to be. The dinosaur had leapt right over Paul and was now rushing towards Mindy. Mindy gulped in a breath for a scream, but she was too late. The creature slammed into her, driving her body into Ian's. Compressed underneath his girlfriend and the predator, Ian felt his ribs crinkle in his chest. Oh yeah, they're proper struggling. I'm struggling. He kept his arms wrapped around his girl, even though he could feel the dinosaur's talons scrabbling across them. His muscles snapped like twangy banjo strings. He feels his bones detaching. Skeletal shoots poked through his flesh and dived into Mindy's. The two were coagulating under the dinosaur's assault. They were being mulched into one conjoined mass of tattered meats and hot blood. I know. It's an interesting way to word of use. Yes, twangy banjo strings. Take that in. Ian! Mindy! Polly screamed from the corner of the cabin. She held her hands against the side of her face and screamed. The dinosaur roared directly into Mindy's face. Droplets of blood and chunks of frothy saliva dribbled across her agonized visage. Oh no. Mindy roared back, not in defense or in anger, but in total mind-altering fear. Then, the beast bit down on her head. Ian had once seen an online video where a joker wrapped a watermelon with rubber bands until it broke. First, the fruit's top split, then it exploded from its top and bottom while the bands closed into a fist around its middle. The action jettisoned watermelon pulp in all directions. This was exactly what Mindy's head looked like as the dinosaur mauled it. Fear is mind-altering. Yes. I know. Right. Chapter 11. I know. I too feel judgy. No, it's good. It's good. What are you talking about? It's an interesting read. It's interesting. It's interesting. Okay, it's interesting. Don't hate. We're nearly done, everyone. Chapter 11. Oh yeah, do you think so? There is the mind killer. Modern. It's modern. Chapter 11. Lincoln was frozen. His fists had turned into pale gloves around the shaft of the poker. His pants were soaked with urine, and his teeth had seared through the tip of his tongue. He never thought he'd see a real-life dinosaur. Sure, as a child he'd wanted to. He'd often mused that it would have been amazing to watch terrible lizards fight, feed, and dwell in the earth as they had millions of years ago. But, even as a child with an active imagination, he never thought he'd actually see one. But, here was a dinosaur, plain as the nose on his face, an actual creature from prehistory. It was a species of raptor, he decided, although it didn't bear the significant hooked talon of a velociraptor. All the beasts, like the beast in Jurassic Park, which we literally just reviewed and did a video on. But it certainly wasn't a T-Rex. It was only 6 feet tall, and its arms were long and segmented, and each hand ended in a set of curved talons, which reminded him of an eagle's foot. Doesn't matter what type of dinosaur it is, you asshole, Lincoln thought. What matters is that it's currently eating your best friends alive. Lincoln swung the poker towards the animal's face. It clobbered the brute's head, knocking it sideways when the creature moved away from Mindy. It pulled her decimated face with it. Spongy strands of tissue snapped as they were wrenched away from Mindy's masticated cranium. Lincoln drove the sharp end of the poker towards the monster's remaining eye. He saw now that he had blinded the creature's left eye, and the right was red with anger. The dinosaur dodged Lincoln's stab, which caused the man to fall off balance and tumble into his pile of mashed up friend meat. That's brilliant, sorry. Heck you! Oh. Beneath his weight, he could hear Ian wheezing for breath. He was compressed beneath Mindy's corpse, and his face was coated in gore. Hang in there, buddy, Lincoln thought as he clambered up to his feet. He was surprised to see the dinosaur spinning around, whipping the air with its sturdy tail, the tip of which was as sharp as a scorpion's stinger. Fuck, Lincoln thought before the tail smacked into the side of his head. Lincoln felt his temple cave in with the force of the blow. He also felt his eyeball pop loose from its orbital socket, pressurized by the collision. Lincoln turned over in the air before smashing against the hardwood floor. Limbs akimbo, he skidded to a stop against the front wall of the cabin. His vision had turned fuzzy in his remaining eye, and his throat felt sealed. He tried to breathe, but nothing could get past through his blood-clogged gullet. He began to drool red gore as he spasmed in the throes of defeat. No, I can't be dying, not like this. Not when I had so much ahead of me. He wanted to write books and marry Polly and raise children. He wanted to get away from the repressive school he'd been forced to attend. He wanted to go somewhere like New York City where he thought people would be more open-minded and creative. That probably wasn't what it was actually like out there, but he didn't care. Lincoln wanted to try it out anyway. He wanted to live. Lincoln gurgled loudly before he died. Oh, chapter 12. The chapters are getting shorter and shorter. We have what? We got 2 people left alive, which is the redneck who's dying slowly and Polly. I don't know where Polly is. But we've nearly done. Page 66 out of 87. We can do this. We have faith. We're so close. Fuck you, Mindy. Wow, what? What did Mindy ever do to you? I mean, she did yip and jump around like a dog. Oh, sorry, I'm opening lemonade. Diet lemonade. And that's the thing about Splatterpunks. Everything is so fast-paced, which we like. We like fast-paced stuff sometimes. Lincoln and Mindy were dead. Oh no, Ian's alive still. I thought Ian was dead too. Polly braced herself against the corner and watched the scene play out with mortified terror. The creature had torn Mindy's head away before whipping Lincoln so hard with its tail that he perished. And now, it was turning its sights back to Ian. The man had pushed Mindy off his chest. She wasn't his girlfriend anymore. She was just a pile of raw flesh and pumping gore. The army crawled across the floor, directing himself towards Polly. She saw that Ian's arms had been shredded by the dinosaur's attack. His fingers were dangling in discordant directions. The flaps of skin hung from fragmented poles of bone. Polly wanted to rush to his aid, but she didn't want to put a target on her back. Good thinking, Polly. So far, you're the most rational thinking one yet. Oh, for real. Oh, I always one survivor. Not like it's a good survive, but there's always one. From the precipice of the broken back door, Paul whined like a mistreated puppy. He was holding his belly and rocking on the floor, lost in a haze of fear and trauma. Polly could relate. All she'd sought to do was spend the weekend with her friends, and now God had seen fit to punish them by unleashing an impossible demon upon them. Wow, we've gone to God and demons now. What the fuck? Yes, it looked like a dinosaur, but Polly knew in her heart that it was a creature of far fouler origins. A demon straight from hell. The demon's one menacing eye glared down at Ian. It lapped at its chops with juicy hunger. It was going to devour him, and then it would devour her. And Polly knew in her heart there was nothing she or God could do to stop it. The dinosaur planted a clawed foot on Ian's back, smooshing him against the floor. Ian didn't cry out or even whimper. He simply lay still as the beast salivated over his bruised and battered head. Polly wanted to look away, but she couldn't. She kept her eyes trained on the scene as it developed. She knew that she was about to watch another friend die, and she knew that she'd be next. Oh, that's a good thing. Vote. Who do you think's going to survive? Do you think it's going to be Polly? Or Ian's about to die. We've got Polly and Paul. We've got two P's going on. Prepare yourself for everything you are about to endure, a wise voice echoed in Polly's ear. Maybe if you know what's going to happen, it won't be quite as bad as you expect. The dinosaur leaned down, fitting its munchers around Ian's skull. It bit down slowly, applying pressure in centimeters. Blood seeped from where its teeth dug through his flesh. The crimson liquids tinkled onto the floor. That's what it says, tinkled onto the floor, pooling around him like a scarlet halo. Ian sniffled but held back his cries. Then a low sound rippled up from Paul. The redneck stopped his shaking as he unleashed a Then a low sound rippled up from Paul. The redneck stopped his shaking as he unleashed a burbling fart which tore through the room and filled every available nostril. The dinosaur pulled away from Ian and cocked its scaly head, as if Paul had called to it by name. Paul jabbered at the creatures as it plodded toward him, abandoning Ian in his pool of blood. No, wait, Paul held up a defensive hand. The dinosaur chomped it. Polly clamped her own hands over her mouth and held back a cry of surprise. Paul pulled his arm away from the dinosaur's mouth, leaving his mulched digits between the beast's ragged teeth. His palm was torn through the middle. Chunks of meat dangled like fishing lures from his wrist. Oh, that's actually quite gruesome bit of detail I like. Paul sucked in a breath, then unleashed a high-pitched wail. The dinosaur tackled him, tearing into his body with its talons. Polly turned away from the attack and leapt across the cabin. She knelt down beside Ian and scooped him by the armpit. Without thinking or hesitation, she dragged him towards the cabin's front and struggled to keep him elevated while she propped the door open. All the while, the dinosaur had torn away Paul's overalls, leaving his lumpy belly exposed. The creature was digging between his legs, chewing at every strand of flesh it could yank away from him. Tubes of fecal-filled intestine hung out from the savage gorge, filling the air with even more awful scents. Fuck, let me go, you fuck, Paul wailed, as the creature burrowed its snout into his pelvis and snuffled loudly, causing a geyser of gore to stipple the fat man's jiggling front. Not wanting to see any more carnage, Polly tucked her chin and focused on pulling Ian out of the cabin and down the steps. As she retreated, she had no choice but to listen while Paul was destroyed by the dinosaur. Mindy, Ian rasped. Blood frothed from his lips and dotted his already soaked chest. Is Mindy okay? Polly didn't know how to respond. She hefted Ian up and positioned one of his busted arms over her shoulders. Together, they hobbled away from the cabin and into the woods. We can't leave without her, Ian intoned. It's okay, Polly said. It's okay, buddy. We're gonna get help. We'll go back for her. Mindy, Ian murmured. It was mostly dead weight. Ian held Polly back from a full sprint. She could feel his legs dragging behind her. Ditch him. He's gonna get you killed. No, don't do that. That would be a real bitch move, Polly. She grunted with exertion, as she struggled. Maybe she could find a nice spot to stow him away and then she could run for help. Lincoln had the car keys. What was she going to do when she broke out of the woods? Maybe Bill would be back at his farmhouse. Or perhaps the dinosaur had already eaten him. Polly looked over her shoulder. She gasped when she saw the blood-soaked predator loping towards her. With almost supernatural stealth, the dinosaur had come from the cabin and was now darting towards Polly, with his head held low and his haunches raised. He was moving like a race car, clearing the distance in seconds. Polly had no time to consider her alternatives. The thing would be on her if she didn't do something. She regretted it the moment she did it. With a heaving shout, she pushed Ian away from her and allowed him to stumble back on rickety legs. His arms pedaled by his sides, and his face fell apart with tragic shock. The dinosaur collided with him, biting into his exposed side right above his hip. With a thrashing motion, the creature ripped into Ian's abdomen, and with its serrated teeth. Oh my god. There was a gust of blood, and then Ian's organs were worming loose from the ragged wound. Polly turned and ran, pumping her arms and legs. She ground her teeth together and ignored Ian's startled yips. Yes, absolutely. Don't think about it. No one will blame you. You did what you had to. It's not like it even counts as murder. He was gonna die anyways. Don't think about it. Polly! Ian shouted. His voice warbled with pain as the dinosaur encircled him and pressed him into the forest floor. Polly could hear it snarling and snorting like a chainsaw as it ravaged her only remaining friend. Oh yeah, for sure. Just keep going. Run. You have to run. You won't survive if you don't run. Polly! Ian shouted as his guts were towed out by the monster. Polly, come back! Oh no. Okay. We have 15 pages left. We're on chapter 13 now. And yes, absolutely Doctor Who dot and ball moment. It really is. She will either die or she'll make it. But she won't be herself fully. Because normally at the end it's going to be it's like a real depressing ending. Like, oh, well, whoop. Normally. But, are we ready for the last bit? They could die. They could all die for once, that's for sure. She could be dead. She could be. But it sounds like she did. Yeah. Very true, very true. Anyway. Let's just breeze through this and we'll talk about it afterwards, because this is an experience. Chapter 13. Polly broke through the trees. She spotted Crater Pond ahead of her. She wanted to dip herself into the water to scrub away all the blood and grime she had been coated in. She sprinted around the pond, crying and blubbering as she went. Polly spotted Angus's body. There wasn't much left of him. He was wrapped around a tree trunk with a gory loop of rope. One of his legs jutted out from the messy swamp of human debris. Just to look, she saw that he had a leather holster attached to his lower leg. She raced over to the corpse and struggled to loosen the knife from its sheath. Her hands were so plastered in blood it made it hard for her to keep a firm grip on the slick instrument. Eventually, she wrestled the knife free. Armed, she ran up the inclined hill towards the cars. She saw the rednecks had parked adjacent to Lincoln's vehicle. They must have saw our car from the road. That's not important. You don't have Lincoln's key or the rednecks. You need to get in Bill's house and call the cops or something. That's the only way you can do. She heard the dinosaur bleat from behind her. Walking backwards, she watched as the dinosaur bumbled out from the tree line and set its singular eye on her. The damned socket leaked blood where Lincoln had stabbed it. I hope that hurt, motherfucker, Polly thought. The creature sniffed the ground, then began to prance towards her on nimble feet. It was gloved in gore. Bits of Ian's skin hung from between its almond-shaped teeth. Its tongue glistened with blood, and its talons had been repainted a deep red. Polly knew she didn't stand much of a chance in hand-to-hand combat with the predator, but she also didn't think she could outrun it. If she made a break for Bill's house, all she'd be doing was turning her back on her fast-approaching aggressor. Polly held the knife ahead of her shaking body. She squeezed back tears and ground her teeth together. She tasted blood, sweat, and tart fear. It burnt her mouth like alcohol. The dinosaur leapt towards her, splaying its claws and baring its fangs. I'm going to die. It'll attack me and I'll die. Then it'll keep killing. Anyone and everyone who comes to these woods, it will kill. That's all it knows to do. I'm next, but I won't be the last. She felt oddly serene in those moments between the dinosaur's jump and its landing, as it bore down on her with its impressive weight, and as she forced the blade into its yawning mouth, she wondered if she'd even be remembered after she died. The dinosaur twisted around, repositioning Polly. The prehistoric killer was started by the sharp hurt the knife had caused. As it wrestled with Polly, it set a cumbersome foot against her chest. With a forceful kick, the beast launched her towards Crater Pond. Polly skidded across the ground before flopping into the slimy water. She had the air knocked out of her by the dinosaur's kick. The frightened woman wheezed and choked and spluttered as scummy liquids doused her mouth and filled her weeping eyes. She struggled up to her feet. She was in the shallowest portion of Crater Pond. The water only came up to her ankles. The dinosaur flopped on the ground, honking and coughing. Soon, the dejected knife shot out of its mouth, launched by a gulping blast of blood and tattered tissue. The belching dinosaur stumbled around, dazed by the blow Polly had dealt it, but not finished. No, she'd irritated the dinosaur, but she hadn't killed it. Buck, Polly thought, as the creature whirled towards her. The dinosaur charged, stooping low and tucking its head. It would batter her like a sledgehammer, and then it would pull her beneath the cloudy waters of Crater Pond, and it would feast on her while she drowned. The dinosaur leapt again. Then a beam of light fell on them both. Wait. Check this out. Then a beam of light fell on them both. The light was white hot, and it prickled her skin. She tried to scream, but no sound came from her. Instead, she was deafened by a cataclysmic boom. The unearthly detonation caused the dinosaur to rupture mid-air. Its skin peeled away in one blow, like pollen from a flower. A payload of scarlet liquid spattered against the trembling surface of Crater Pond, followed by dancing bones and jangling tubes. Polly covered her face with her arms as she was bombarded with dinosaur particles. The heavy wave of gore filled her mouth with sour taste and clogged her nostrils. Even her vision was tinted bright red, and her hearing was muffled by the dense liquids that crawled into her ears. Polly lowered her arms and looked up towards the origin of the brilliant beam. The intensive light was falling from the bottom of a huge vehicle, one which hovered lazily over the farm and stretched out to a nearly incomprehensible length. The craft was pitch black, rumbled with mechanical limbs and antennas, and its bottom had opened up to project a killing beam down on the dinosaur. Polly felt herself lift up from the pond and float towards the hot center of the ship. Her arms and legs pedaled around her, and her mouth fell open in awe. I'm flying! It's picking me up and carrying me away from... Then the terror struck. She was so surprised by the sequence of events, she hadn't had time to properly comprehend what was happening to her. And now that she was 8 feet above Crater Pond, it hit her like a brick wall. She had been rescued from the dinosaur's rampage by an extraterrestrial force. Aliens aren't real. This can't be happening. None of this should have happened. And yet, it had. Lincoln, Mindy, and Ian were all dead because a dinosaur had killed them. And implausible as that sounded, it made more sense to her than the present situation. Polly screeched as she was sucked into the ship. She was cast into perfect darkness. There's still a chapter to go, everyone! Hey Jay, how you doing, hon? How's life? How's things? We've nearly finished this book. We have 10 pages left. And I don't know what just happened. It's got collective trauma. It's caused collective trauma, this book. It's caused collective trauma. How you doing? How's life? How's things? What you been up to, my friend? This is it's been interesting. Doing okay? Got in a car? Oh, fuck. Jay, are you okay? Are you alright? I don't think the aliens are gonna say... Oh, no. I just glanced at the page. You're gonna have to wait for this. Chapter 14, the last chapter. Oof. But yeah, are you okay? Like, are you home? Are you resting? Like, are you hurt anywhere? Probing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna read this to you in a minute. It's definitely a way to end the book. That's for sure. Oh, it comes a little bit weirder. I just didn't expect aliens. Everyone is fine. Good. I'm glad, Jay. You better be looking after yourself now. Listen to this. Are you ready for this? The last. It feels like it. It feels like a Tingleverse crossover. Are you ready? Nobody knew what had happened at Meteorite Acres. The farm was about as blood-soaked as a slaughterhouse. The sheriff's department had caved after the fourth body was found, and the FBI had been called to the scene. They were just as flummoxed as the peace officers had been. Carter Boswell didn't care about the how and why of it all. He read about it in the morning paper. What mattered to him was the girl. The only survivor of the massacre, a young lady named Polly Wilson. She'd been found near Crater Pond, her belly distended with pregnancy and her head shaven bald. She'd been nude as a plucked chicken, and her eyes had been sealed shut with a gummy residue that reminded Carter of fish ague. They'd brought her to the hospital fast and were now attempting to figure out what exactly to do with her, especially since she was giving birth. Standing between her legs, Carter Boswell observed the inflation of her canal as she mechanically pushed forth her child. He tried to ignore the scraps of information that niggled at him while he worked. He heard from one of the... This is absolutely bonkers, sorry. He'd heard from one of the nurses that they'd contacted the girl's parents, and they were shocked to hear their daughter was pregnant. You didn't know? Someone had asked Mr. Wilson. No, we saw her last week and she wasn't showing any signs of pregnancy. You must be mistaken. Sometimes girls will conceal it. We took her to the goddamn beach. She was wearing a two-piece suit. She wasn't pregnant. It's impossible. Boswell shook it all away as if he was beating the bottom of a near-empty ketchup bottle. He had to focus on the task at hand. She's stable, one of the nurses spoke up from Polly's side, almost like she doesn't even know she's giving birth. Come on, Polly, breathe for us, okay? Carter asked, peering up towards the deflated face of the young woman. Her expression was vague, and her skin had turned grey. She stared at him with vacant, uncaring eyes. He hated to admit it, but she frightened him. Something came sluicing out of her, a thick wave of blood. Way too much poured from between her legs and showered the sterile floor. Carter stepped back, watching in awe as Polly's belly rippled violently. Let's see where this is going. Carter leapt back into action. He crouched down and looked at the awful sight of Polly's birth. Oh, that's awful! Can we just explain what I'm sorry, I've got to read this line so everyone understands. This is awful. He crouched down and took in the awful sight of Polly's birthing spout. Birthing spout. The crown of the fetus was poking through her. It was blackened, scaly, and it pulled her skin apart like tissue as it clawed to freedom. No, one of the nurses cried, planting her hands over a masked face. Oh God, no! Carter reached down, cupped the dinosaur's head, and assisted it out as it slid free from its mother. When it came loose, it cracked Polly's pelvis open. She didn't bray with pain, even though it must have been excruciating. Instead, Polly's mouth popped open and her eyes rolled into her skull. A low groan issued forth from her esophagus, followed by a spurt of bright blood. Okay. Carter focused on the unnatural creature she was giving birth to. It whined and screeched in his hands, wriggling around like a freshly caught trout. Then it began to sear through his hands with its daggered claws. I can't believe it, Carter thought as his eyes welled over with pain. She just gave birth to a motherfucking dinosaur. Polly's belly ruptured like a water balloon. Quilts of gore dashed across the screaming nurses, followed by a guttural eruption of blood. The dinosaur jumped up and began to bite at Carter's face. He stumbled back, beating at the clinging creature with his fists. He cried and screamed, showing more emotion than he ever had in his professional career. Get off me! Get off me! Oh Christ, get it off me! Carter screeched in a childish tone. He thrashed around, whipping the dinosaur's tail through the air ahead of him. His team had already evacuated the room, leaving behind the good doctor, the corpse of the poor girl, and the ferocious infant predator. It's eating me! The dinosaur, which was only the size of an iguana, clawed open Dr. Carter Boswell's face so it could dredge up his succulent eyeballs. Only a few seconds old, and the monster was already fulfilling its purpose. It had been put on this planet to hurt and kill and devour, and it was going to do just that. The end! Oh, or is it? Keep your eyes open for Splatter-Saurus Rex, a sequel. Ta-da! Oh, afterward, there's a note from the author. This book is stupid, but that's the point. Sometimes you don't want to sit down and read or write something that challenges the intellect or probes the deepest corners of the psyche. You want a B movie which makes you smile and gives you... That's why I read these. I love terrible B movies. And this, I guess it's because it's book form. Like, I don't know, I read them and then I'm like, oh. And then I'm like, could read another one. I wanted to make you laugh. Hopefully I succeeded. But if not, maybe I'll get you the next shorty I've got planned. To be honest, it was kind of funny. For a splatterpunk book, it's decent. It made me uncomfortable when there was like a bit of like racism and stuff thrown in there and derogatory terms, and that bit was a little bit, especially when reading live, it was uncomfortable for them words, and I was like, oh, how do I get past that? But if I was reading it at home, I would have like, if I was reading it alone, I think I would have really enjoyed it. We didn't call it right. Better luck next time. No, we didn't. We thought it was going to be just one survivor, because it's normally when we've read books, it was just the one, but not this time. It was literally, no. But we know there's a second one, so we can work on that at some point if you like. Read the blurb for the follow-up. Okay, let me see. Where's the blurb? Okay, you're reading the next one. I will probably read the next one if people are interested in it. But we'll do some votes on it. We'll throw a couple of votes in the Discord and stuff like that. But that's funny, and I wish I knew the rest of the story. It's sent to Discord. Thank you. We'll read the blurb to you all for the next one. Oh my god. Jay, it was, if you have like an ebook or a Kindle or something, if you have Kindle Unlimited, it's free on there at the moment. It's a Splatterpunk little short book. They're normally about 80 pages long. Sometimes a bit shorter. Nothing over 100. But definitely interesting of a read. So... Oh, a bit tired. Sorry, I've been up very early this morning. So, the blurb for the second book for this reads, "It emerged from Polly's womb in a welter of gore. Dr. Carter never stood a chance. Nurse Dorothy Cummings was the second to fall to its teeth and talons, and the hospital would fill with blood. Sheriff Mike Brundle and Deputy Charlie Ham were fast on the scene. What they found was a massacre that would pale in comparison to what was coming." So we'll have to have a look at that one for sure. What did everyone think? It was interesting, right? It was an interesting read. It was something. Well, Second Teenage Bloodbath was 208 pages. That one's a bit different. That's not just splatterpunk. There's an actual like proper like delving story into that. While with these, it's like this is kind of the story, but it's really stupid and it's more about the gore. I read so many books that are still updating to this day. Some with over 2K. What? What do you mean, my friend? But it was definitely different for sure, Uwing. But yeah, that is it. I can now remove this book from my Kindle. And I can mark it off on my Goodreads. But it's been interesting. I appreciate you all were here with me for this. It's definitely been Return to Kindle Unlimited, there we go. It's definitely been interesting. You've sent me more. Nice. I'm really interested in the pregnancy, apparently. The dinosaur pregnancy. It was aliens. There was no clue or hint that there were... I mean, at the beginning of the book, it was like, oh, it's called Meteorite Acres, but it's called this because, like, they thought that there was a meteorite that landed there that caused the crater. But nothing else was really mentioned about it. It was like a little snippet, and then the rest of it was just dinosaurs and gore. 4 books in total. Thanks, Van. Imagine giving birth to a dinosaur that breaks your bones. It is disturbing. It absolutely is. Do you think the bubbles are a clue? Oh, you know what? I would not have clocked that because it is a deep hole, so they wouldn't have known that. You've got a point, then. I didn't even clock that. Did not clock that at all. Yeah, next book, that's the main character. It's Polly's alien dinosaur child, I guess. But I appreciate you all being here with us for this read. It's been good. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call it here. I don't even know how I'm gonna even review this and set up a review for a couple of days for this. Oh, it's been interesting. Yeah, Boruto from Naruto. It's kind of the same thing, absolutely. No, I appreciate you all being here for this. It was interesting, and I appreciate that you stuck with us. No, Witchy Reads! I'm so sorry! You missed an experience? I'm so sorry. It was a thing. It was an experience. Boruto is the son of Naruto. Apparently it didn't do as good as Naruto, but you know, it's a new generation, so I'm sure it'll build up to that. Thank you very much, Jenny. I appreciate it. Obviously, I'm sorry, Witchy, that you just got here. No. Never apologize. You are a family person. You have your own life, your own things going on. Like, I would never assume or expect, but I appreciate that you came in either way. But yeah, thank you all very much. It's been good. I don't understand how that happens, Jay. Is it like fan fiction? Is that what you're talking about? But yeah, Splatter-Saurus is done. There's a second book which we didn't know. It's been interesting. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. Stay awesome. Why, what's happening? No, because I'm on... What's happening tomorrow? For another live read? Oh, no. No. We'll sort another live read out for next week, I think. Because I have other things I need to do and sort out. I've got some reviews I need to do. And other things. No, I can't read more. No. No. But yeah, much love. Stay awesome. Thank you once again. I really appreciate you being here for the experience and obviously just coming in as well. But You should do. Damn. But thank you once again. Stay awesome, and I'll catch you all very soon. Bye. Yes, absolutely. Stay safe. Have a good night or a good day, depending on where you are. Ooh, in Texas. I hope you have a very... Wait, when is your birthday again, Jay? It's all good. Much love. Be good, bud. Cheers again.